Yay.
Yay!
Clayton's here.
Yay, Clayton!
Woohoo!
Ooh.
As I'm still like trying to get everything set up. Go the other way. Go the other way.
Yeah. Well, historically, I think Cookie was an attempt to be a pretty far departure from Larb as a character. Larb, very carefree, only cared about, the small animals, and Cookie kind of had a little bit more serious take on that. There were stakes in the game, had some really big things that he had done that he regretted. So I think giving a little bit more. My intention was to make a more complex character, and I definitely think that with your help, definitely achieved that. Mm-hmm. Fair. Yeah, I mean, we spent a fair amount of time. I mean, just because of the nature of who we are as people and our interactions, Gorgas Ramson, we spent like a whole day making. So and we were just deliciously waiting for the moment where we could reveal the name because it was just so good. It was so perfect. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That's so good.
We didn't really get to bring up your spell book either.
that's true. Yeah. Let me see if I can find it. That I didn't have off the rip, but we did make a book. I gotta find it.
We wrote it down somewhere in our conversations, but I remember the concept was we had taken like a Gordon Ramsay cookbook and we had made some adjustments to it.
It was called it in reference to his book In the Heat of the Kitchen. We named it In the Heat of Avernus, a roasting cookbook by Gorgas Ramson, the Glutton Weaver.
It was so
Interesting.
good. It was such a fun concept.
Yeah.
I loved getting to play the devil contract. So, fun fact, we actually came up with some of the stuff for Cookie midway through the season.
Mhm.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like there was a lot of things that weren't decided and set in stone going into this. One of the things, and I talked with Clayton about a lot of this stuff, so he knows what we were going through.
Oh
But I
yeah,
was
lot.
lots of secrets, which we shall divulge here today. But one of the things that was not yet decided was Cookie's relationship with his patron and how he ties into the story.
Mhm.
Because, the devil feels like he's very disconnected from all the characters, right? Doesn't tie in very well with the plot of Leviathan. So, what ties him to the rest of the plot? Memories.
Mhm.
He didn't give me all the details of his backstory, so I'm like, oh, Gorgas Ramson is devouring his memories in exchange for power. I like that. I love that aspect of the character. And we didn't tell Jarid; he figured it out part way through the series, as we did.
Yeah, it was. I felt normally in control of my destiny at that point, and until that point, I should say. And then I was like, "Break check. Wait, I actually don't know what the heck's going on."
There were
That's
so
great.
many drops throughout the season, so many little moments sprinkled.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it was great.
All right.
Do we want to move on ahead and talk about Chris's character, the captain?
I think that's fair, unless anyone
Sure.
has any other questions for Cookie.
Yeah, actually, anyone have questions for Cookie and for
This
Jared?
goes to chat too as well. If you guys have any questions, feel free
Yeah.
to type them out. We'll try to snag them as we're
Yeah.
of course chatting ourselves.
So, for anyone who doesn't know, Larb, or now I was Larb, but now I got Larb on the mind. Cookie, Jared actually messaged all of us and was like, "What's your character's favorite
Yeah, our favorite food.
favorite meal?" I wish we would have gotten a chance to like showcase that, because I think that was like a really cool part that we missed.
Yeah, I
It
can
did
pull
come
up
up
the
once.
list.
And
I
that
think
was
it
cool.
came up
He
once,
brought
but
it
I think,
up.
but I wish we would have actually like had a moment for it, like had a meal as like a crew.
Yeah.
But
In the
I
future,
think
maybe.
future next time we play pirates, maybe.
I mean, I will say that there was a lot of things that I intentionally left incomplete,
Mhm.
so that if we ever come back to this setting, ever come back to this crew, there's definitely a lot of things that we can expand upon. For example, we haven't met Vince's family. There's still a pirate
shoot.
queen out there. And
Yeah.
whatever happened to that robot that was left to sit on the edge of the island to fish?
Where is he?
Where is
Is he
I-
still fishing?
But today, at no joke, I was actually thinking about like if we did like a second season of Lost in Leviathan, like what would KO do? Because I have a general idea of what I would want to do.
I mean, you talked about being the pirate king, right?
Yeah, so I mean, we would definitely encounter the pirate queen for sure, but the way I would want to like handle the situation is probably not what you're thinking, Joan. I would be throwing you a huge curveball.
Jared,
But-
you were making Cookie. Besides like not knowing your past and like wanting to be like different from Lara, was there anything that you were like hoping you would like achieve with Cookie like this season?
I really wanted to, and I think I did a fair job, but of course, y'all can correct it. But I really tried to incorporate like legitimate food facts into a lot of the like culinary based interactions that
That
Cookie
got me
had.
excited.
Yeah, and I think that's something I really wanted to strive for, because at its core, despite where Cookie came from and the whole deal with the devil thing, just wanted to cook. Just wanted to be a baker, some would say.
You made me hungry on more than one occasion.
That's exactly why I
Yeah.
did it. Actually, I wanted people to suffer the same thing I suffer all the time: hunger.
It's great.
That's very funny.
I mean, you were working with a gluttony devil, so
Yeah,
fair.
That makes pretty good sense.
and it's something that, like, I think, to be truthful to you, we look at movies like Howl's Moving Castle and things like that, who have such a brilliant opportunity to illustrate like the focus or a tiny theme within that whole universe. I think taking a little bit of time and effort to be illustrative with food is also kind of a unique little kind of added flavor, no pun intended, to any sort of D&D environment.
No, keep the pun. Intend your
Yeah.
puns.
I'm intending it. I always do. I can't help it. It's a curse.
I
Over
think
here.
I think I have a
Ooh, Lost in Leviathan.
so like when you were like, so when we were like talking about, so Joan gave us like, we had to have a connection to each one of us. So like when me and you were talking about Jared, I really didn't really know how I was gonna interact with you
Yeah.
initially. So we just kind of came up with, we picked you up. Like, were you? Did you have a better idea, just out of curiosity?
I think that has happened so well and organically. I think that was the only intention, right? Is just to see why would a captain who normally doesn't have like a sophisticated source or an elevated source of food want to pick one up? Well, like, I could cook pretty dang well, so that makes sense. And why else would you blindly trust someone if not, through the stomach? That's the way to some people's heart. I've heard is through the stomach.
Works on me.
Yeah. You can cook
Speaking
me
of
a
the
mean mac and
stomach.
cheese. Oof. Mm.
Speaking of the stomach, I am curious if Cookie truly likes or dislikes good berries.
Oh.
When he lost his memory, he really liked good berries. So I'm curious
That
what
is
exactly
true.
happened there.
What's his opinion?
Well, so Cookie at a, having the opportunity to cook with minimal resources on the Ocean's Oath really started to explore the capabilities of even the simplest ingredients. And I think with that, perhaps a little bit of snobbishness or snobbiness towards good berries came throughout, because that's usually people's like go-to source for rations. And Dell remembers being on countless missions and things of that nature that sometimes the only bite they could get to eat was a good berry. So like the survival and logistical aspect of the good berry definitely showed preference on the Dell side, whereas Cookie, with their, even if it wasn't luxurious to most, luxurious to them, opportunity to cook and explore things, really saw that a good berry, not really a food, more so like strictly just a survival tool, like a matchbook or something, or Tinder.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they taste bad, I've heard. They taste so bad.
Well, depends who you ask. But
I
Yeah,
do want
that's
like
true.
a nice like good berry cobbler or something.
yeah, I bet it just tastes just as good as like a bad blackberry is kind of how I think about it. Like, how a bad blackberry just has like no flavor, it's just all tart and seedy. And that's what I imagined a good berry
Yum.
would be like.
I'm just imagining you taking a bite out of a PDA, being like, that's not quite what I was looking for.
It tastes encrypted, so weird.
Wait, like a PDA, like a
like a
Like the
BlackBerry,
old BlackBerry
like a
device.
Don't you remember those?
I remember
You're
a
not
PDA.
that young, right? Come on, man. Don't
No,
do
I
me
remember
like
Like a
PDA.
that.
phone.
I was confused why Joan was talking about taking a bite out of a piece of tech.
Yeah, because it's a BlackBerry.
The encrypted
Oh,
flavor,
I
they are
see,
notorious
okay.
for being like the most
I
safe
meant-
phone.
A pager.
Yeah, see that joke?
I
It
meant
just
the
went
fruit.
right over Trevor's
Oh
head.
my goodness. Well,
Yeah, okay, I get it now. Okay. I think BlackBerry still makes phones, actually.
They
People
do.
like the keyboards. They like the physical keyboards. So
They
I
look
think
weird though.
in other markets, they're more popular, but here in America, we like our sandwich
Flat
phones,
screens.
Hey.
our glass sandwiches.
If BlackBerry wants to sponsor Minis and Mayhem, I'll let them. I will use a BlackBerry device at all
I think we
times.
should take
Every
this
time
without
the-
any sponsor.
Yeah.
I think we've lost any plans to ever partnering with Nokia, but
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Well, here's in if you want. Every time we mention Goodberry, instead it'll be called Blackberry.
no, that's not happening.
But it could for a low price of any amount of money.
Wait a minute.
Any
Any
amount of
Wait a
investment, please.
moment. I have some feelings about. I have standards. Professionals have standards.
What was that, Clayton?
Eh,
All of our videos just super, super grainy.
Oh yeah,
We just put a filter over them.
it's not what it looks like for my. All I can see is Lost in Leviathan. Is what
This
I'm seeing on screen.
episode we recorded on
the stream,
our BlackBerry
the stream
devices.
shows the actual layout.
Oh,
They can see us.
Okay, gotcha.
That was my bad.
Yeah.
We're-
Hey, we're all
Studio
good,
mode.
see? Hi
Yeah,
everybody.
we were here the
It's
whole
been this way. I
time.
promise.
We can't.
I
So
promise.
so they can see us, but we can't see ourselves.
We can see ourselves.
We can see ourselves.
Can you
Now
not
we
see
see
the-
ourselves,
Yeah.
but previously
They could see us too. It's fine.
Oh,
It's fine.
apparently I'm quiet, so I will sit a little bit closer. How's this? Is this
Beautiful.
Is this
Immersive.
maybe
Crisp.
I'll back up a little.
this is a very immersive ride.
Hello, everybody. Yes. Cool. Yeah, we've just been talking over Cookie. Was there anyone else who had any questions for Jared about Cookie?
Hmm.
Chat if you have any questions.
Yeah, we can circle back to any that pop up in chat
Yeah,
as well.
I
mean,
Do
yeah.
not
just keep doing
feel
the round
do not
robin
feel
and come
frightened to
back.
put
Yeah.
anything in
We
the
can move
chat.
on.
I will
Chris.
work on turn.
Well, that did not
Joe
help.
just made
That
it
was the mute.
himself.
That was the mute button. My apologies. Anyway.
Great comedic timing.
Yeah, it sounded like to me that Joan said, "I'm working on getting turnt," and then it got muted.
Well, that's what you're doing.
Cool,
Oh yeah, that's
cool.
what
Let
I'm
me-
always doing. Let's go.
There's a story of a lovely lady.
Yeah, that's our
I feel a
next
little bit
layout,
Freddie
please.
here in this shot, but before I get us all kicked off of Twitch for an NDA or whatever notice, whatever it's called,
DMCA.
let's DMCA. Thank you. Let's go ahead and move on to Chris and Captain Keo Stoneshade.
Yeah. So to be honest, I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to play, but I knew. So when I was looking up characters for season 3, I was like looking up like different builds online of like different like builds of like wizards or like monks, all these kinds of stuff. And I was like, I found this really cool article of a barbarian monk, and so they go like 3 levels into barbarian, and then they go in the rest into monk. It's like a damaged monk build, and I was like, this is exactly what I want to do. Be like, I don't know. I was thinking of like doing like a Monkey D. Luffy from One Piece homage,
Really?
but I was like,
I
nah.
thought we were going more Zorro there.
Yeah, we were going more Zorro. It was more like I was thinking of being more serious and everything like that, just due to my backstory of like I lost my best friend / brother to my ex-captain killing him, and I was basically holding him as he said his last words, and it was very traumatic for KO, and so he basically vowed he'd work really hard to become a strong pirate and soon become the king of the pirates. Not yet. He's still working on that part, but he's definitely going to get there.
And to fill your room with cats.
And so, should we address that now?
Yeah, what's
So-
up with the cats?
Every campaign, and if you haven't noticed, you should definitely go back and watch the whole the seasons previously, season 1 and season 2. I've had a cat in every single one. I don't know why. I'm gonna be honest. I have no real reason of why I have cats in every single one. I've just been like, you know what? Having a cool cat companion would be sick. So, I've just like a Batman. Okay,
Uh-oh.
I did
Ba-
fix it. It was very small.
Okay.
I fixed it. Yep, you're good. I really hope so, at least.
Flip flaps from Joan.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Hiring Batman archetype
Mhm.
was he had a husband who is a tabaxi, and the tabaxi's name was Sapphire Sparkle, the baddest tabaxi around. And he made a little campaign 1. He made a little appearance, a little guest appearance, which was super fun. But like, I think that at that point, like, that's an established love of cats right there. You loved that character.
Well, okay, granted, I brought back so season 1, I brought the brother,
Gazu.
yeah, Gazu, and he was a cat, and I was like, you know what? And then since like season 2, I was like, you know what? When I was making my season 2 character X-Ray, I was like, I basically just wanted to have a cat in there just for the fun of it, or like have some sort of like campaign, like animal to like help me fight. And so basically I just came up with a tiger because we were in like a post-apocalyptic thing, and like anything could be your friend. And so I was like, I want a tiger because I love tigers. And so Clayton in season 2 got Mr. Whiskers, and I'm not gonna lie, X-Ray and Mr. Whiskers are probably my favorite characters so far that I've played, because it was just such a wholesome moment when we found Mr. Whiskers. It was I cried a little bit. And then yeah, and for season 3, I didn't really know what to. I was like, I know I have to get cats in here somehow. And so basically, what we did is we just had like a little cat collection in the captain's quarters, and it's tucked away. So I hid it from the crew, except for Intern. He had to clean. He has to clean them.
That kid
Only
cleaned the
sometimes.
whole ship.
Yeah, he cleaned the whole ship.
Or Intern, truly.
So funny you should mention Intern. Actually, one of the questions I had for you today was about Intern, right? Like,
Okay.
like let's talk about the concept behind that character, because he was so tied deeply to you and the crew, and it was your idea to create the character, not mine.
Yeah. So when I created Intern, so we originally were gonna have 5 members for campaign campaign 3, but sadly Grace had to leave us due to problems and personal reasons. So I was like, okay, that's fine, but I wanted to still have this side character because, one, it represents basically what I wanted Intern to represent is like a younger version of KO, but KO is much older now. Basically, the whole story of KO is Youthfon, the ghost, his ghost brother, saved him from being bullied. Saved KO from being bullied, and so how we tied Youthfon into it is Youthfon was getting bullied, and KO noticed it, and he stepped right in, and basically KO saw himself in Intern, and so now he's helping Intern learn his way into the world. And Intern's dream is to be a pirate, and he's living his dream. That was kind of like my ultimate goal with Intern, is like a younger version of KO. Intern kind of got bullied by KO, though. No, it was tough love. It was tough love.
Okay,
It was bullying.
Also, it was
it was tough love. It was tough love.
There is a line there that has to be drawn, and like
it's a little too tough of love.
To be fair, like he was like the kid was committing, he was pushing himself very hard, but no, that was bullying, man. Like things clearly got better as the season went on. One thing I actually wanted to comment on regarding Intern is that during the early stages of the season, he kind of was just like, for the most part, it was kind of like in the way, I guess, is kind of the perception that a lot of the...
He's sort of like the punching bag of the group.
Yeah, exactly. And then we get to that final moment in the brain, and who's the first person who everybody rushes for? Who's the first person that you run to save? You go to save Intern.
Baby.
Of course you do. I loved Intern in the sense that he got to be he got to be a member of the party without overshadowing the members of the party, because he's not a damage dealer, right? And that can be really awesome to have a cool damage dealer, but no, he's a support, and it kind of made me get to feel like I got to have a character too, even if he was constantly like 2 levels behind the rest of the party. He was still fun.
And like the other thing is, like, I said this in before we started the brain fight, and I can't remember what episode it was, but I basically said, intern, you are the glue to this crew, holding us all together. Like, if we weren't, like, if you weren't here, we'd probably be a mess. But since you're here, like, you're holding us all together. Like, you are what holds the Ocean's Oath crew together.
There are very few things that have made me almost cry on stream, and that was one of them. Another was
I wasn't
when
prepping
you-
that speech,
Another
by
was
the
when
way.
you asked
Oh,
Victor
Victor?
to be a member of your crew. That
So
was really hard to stop from crying.
I actually thought of that on the spot. Actually, I was like, the flag is beautifully placed on top of Victor's brain, and I was like, you know what, this is a good moment, I think. And so I was like, Victor, do you want to be a part of the Ocean's Oath crew? And I saw your face cam as well when I said that. I was like, oh, she was not expecting this.
I was not expecting that. It caught me completely off guard, and it was a very beautiful little moment.
I think, like, Ocean's Oath crew of 6, I think, is a nice rank to it. Well, now there's more crew members.
Well,
Maybe.
that's a thing to definitely talk about for future seasons. One of the things that I'll admit I would have liked more is to have more time to do that sort of wrap up and epilogue. Give the characters more time to, like, come to terms with their space. That, like, come to terms with the fact that they just escaped. Have a chance to, like, the resolution, the wrap up. But unfortunately, time is something that we don't always have on the show.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, so.
We were already running late that day, anyways.
Yeah, we were. I think, yeah, our ultimate goal was, like, to have, like, a 3 hours, and we were already pushing, like, 3.5.
Yeah, like,
I think it was more like 5.
I don't think we
No?
went that far.
We didn't go
We
that
did not
far,
go
but it
5. We
was
did not go
late.
that
I
far.
can
If we
look up-
were going 5, I was probably asleep. I would be asleep by then.
I'm gonna look up the video on YouTube right now, just so we know the exact runtime of that night.
But
I just remember I was up to almost midnight. That's all I remember.
yeah, I think, honestly,
It was such a great episode, and I want to apologize for everyone for not having music on the last couple minutes of it. I just was not able to, like Joan said, time is not always something that we have, and space is not always something that we have either. So yeah. But anyways, it was such an awesome episode, and it was so great to see you guys finish it up too. I mean, it was fine that it ran long a little bit. We were expecting that a little bit for the final episode.
I think it ended really well.
So the finale is the longest episode of the entire season, and possibly the entire series. At a full runtime of 4 hours, 4 minutes, and 40
we were 4
seconds.
hours. We
Wow.
were 4 hours. I didn't think we were that long.
That's
So-
crazy.
Clayton and I think, learned a lot about combat design this season. And one of the things we learned is that it can go a little long if you don't plan it right.
Yeah, the combats were really good.
They were really good though. Like, they were long, but they were, like, really intriguing, and they were so fun to play and figure out. Like, they felt challenging in, like, really good ways.
Clayton
Yeah,
and I
they were all
definitely-
unique
Kudos
too.
Yeah, and kudos to Joan for throwing so many new mechanics and types of enemies and, like, battle scenarios, and just trying it all out.
Yeah, we talked a lot about the combat for the game, and I do admit a few of the things ran long, and I had to adjust some of the scenarios on the fly when things came up, like say water walking, allowing you to walk on acid without taking any damage. Like the whole concept behind
That
that
was a
original
clutch
encounter.
I cannot believe that the spell specifies acid. That's so
whole-
I
ridiculous.
know.
The whole concept behind the idea is that you would have to be on this like treacherous walkway over the acid below and have to like step across these platforms out in the acid to grab a hold of, and it was going to be so cool. I was so excited. I was going to dunk people in the acid, and it was going to be great. And you cast that one spell and completely invalidated the entire concept of the fight. And I had to spend the whole week trying to figure out how I'm going to change the concept. I'm like, or no, and like I was like, you revealed that spell in like mid session. I'm panicking because I have to change the entire context of this fight now. So that's why I had to have Clayton like put the wheel, the steering wheel out way further where you couldn't just easily reach it.
Yeah.
So that now the combat is we have to get this thing and get out
Yeah.
of the acid. And now oh my goodness, that
It's
was
one spell every season. Every season, it's one spell.
no, with Rae, it was just a constant like, oh, you need to find an object. I have the locate object spell. Let me
Yeah.
The
just
tidal
walk across
wave, like all of
acid.
it.
Now
Yeah,
we can breathe underwater.
season
Fair
one was
enough, fair
silvery
enough.
barbs. I think season two is just what was
Haste.
season two?
Haste.
Haste
Oh,
season
haste.
two.
Haste was such
You
a good
guys use
spell.
the shit out of haste.
Dude,
I do not apologize
X-ray
for
haste
that.
is so crazy. I just attack 4 times in a turn.
I know it was fun being the one to like mess up all the plans for once.
Yeah, wasn't this Rae? Wasn't this your first campaign you've played and not?
No, I've played a lot with my friends and other things, but I've never played, you know,
Or
This is
yeah,
like your
Minis and
debut
Mayhem
for
wise.
Minis
first
and
Minis and
Mayhem,
Mayhem
yeah.
campaign with you
Yeah,
guys.
yeah, yeah.
I've seen all behind. I've been behind the scenes for everything, but
Yeah.
first public appearance.
Maybe that you think that's garnered you like an advantage to know how to plan for your characters for Joan's, mischievous ways.
Maybe
It was such a cool like Scooby Doo
It
kind of
certainly
moment of
seems
like,
like it, right? I mean,
exactly.
that story was incredible.
Oh, thank you. We'll get to it. We have to get through Trevor first.
We'll definitely get to Rae. I have a lot of things to say about Rae, and but let's go over to Trevor. Yeah, since we're at that point now, like let's talk about Vincent.
Oh my gosh, so many questions.
Like, what was your concept behind Vincent?
Yeah, so the way my analytical brain works is we're first going to go through the mechanics of Vincent and how he kind of came
The
to
combo.
be. Yeah, and so originally we were going to have Grace in our party, and they were going to have they were going to be a martial class, if I recall.
Yep.
And then
Arcanist, or artificer.
Yeah.
Would be.
I thought she was gonna be a gunslinger.
Well, that's kind of the archetype. Artillerist,
Oh, okay,
I
okay.
think, was
She was gonna be
so.
like-
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
so they were going to be doing a lot of damage from range. And I was going to be just a basic fighter, I was thinking when I first started. And then I found out that Grace wouldn't be joining us. So I changed my build. I still wanted to be able to be fighter-esque. And I looked into Ranger, and I was historically Ranger's garbage class. You might as well play a fighter with a bow.
Sure,
And
I've seen what it did in this campaign.
well,
Holy crap,
I'm
dude.
getting there. Fortunately, Joan was graceful enough in her awesomeness to allow me to use the Unearthed Arcana revised Ranger, which is the reason I was able to play a melee Ranger. And in devising Vincent, I also asked her, and each of us got a magical item or some special item that we brought to the table. So, for example, KO's sword, Jared's book.
Jarid
and-
actually wasn't his book. The book was a part of his class. For
It was something I
Cookie.
subtly noted.
It was your knife,
any
right?
opportunity. It was my kit,
Cooking
my
knife.
cooking.
Yeah, your
Yep,
cooking
exactly
knife.
that.
Anyways, and I was like, well, so I have this spear that my ex-captain gave to me, foisted upon me, a responsibility. and it would be great if I could use it both in melee and range. What do you think?
Well, I went over to Artificer and saw like how does Artificer handle this, right? How does Artificer handle situations where there's like a weapon of returning, right? That's a common concept in the series. As it turns out, the weapon of returning is really good with the fighter ranger. So this would have been possible if you had Grace in your party, where the Astrum Spear automatically returns. The trade-off, of course, is that you can't like tie a rope around it and use it for traversal or exploration. It is a weapon, but what a weapon!
Yeah, I can't choose when to return it to me. It just does so. I can choose when to summon it into my hand initially, but once it's been thrown, it comes back by itself. And I forgot that a couple times, admittedly, throughout the campaign. I was like, oh, I'm going to use this as a lightning rod. Easy peasy. And then it just comes back to me. I was like, oh, okay.
Oh.
Right. It just comes back.
I was
Suddenly it's in your hand and you're the lightning rod.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, but also it kind of works because Vince has only had it for a few months, like ever since he was with this crew who rescued him in the water, and so now I can get a little bit of that into his backstory and how he kind of came to be, conceptually, and so he was originally a fisherman from a small village, and this was revealed. A little bit of this was revealed in Rae's backstory, their flashbacks, and he was unfortunately not very wealthy, and his house was going to be essentially repossessed, the fantasy version of whatever that is, and he needed to find a way to make money, and he saw an ad in the paper or however on a bulletin board somewhere, and there was a new crew that wanted to go out and was in need of a navigator, and being a fisherman at sea for a long period of time, he thought he could fill that role, and so he joined this new crew, and that's how he became one of the Astrum pirates, and he did that for about 10 years, sending his money back to his family. Unfortunately, he didn't really get to ever return, so he doesn't really know what happened to his family, if they're still there or not, but he still sent the money, and he assumed they've been using it. So that gives an avenue for exploration in the future should we choose to return there. And I wanted Vince to be a grizzled veteran sort of character, someone that his goal was to look out for others and to be a support. And a lot of times that took the form of doing a lot of damage, supporting people with a lot of damage, because of the way I built him, but also being a right hand man, some muscle. He has knowledge. He has a lot of respect, being an ex-Astrum pirate, and he was much more gentle prior to his whole crew being killed by the Leviathan, and then he went on a warpath of vengeance to slay the Leviathan himself, which he ultimately ended up doing, although it's for a different reason than he originally intended. It was more of a mercy than a vengeful killing. So I like that, how we were able to resolve his arc, and now he can be more of the relaxed veteran, supportive role moving forward. I'd like to think about it that way, at least. That now that his goals have been reached, he doesn't really have anything else to do in terms of his drive. So now he wants to help the rest of his friends, and he's accepted his new role as a crew member on the Ocean's Oath. So yeah, but that's what I got. Anyone have any comments, concerns, questions?
A few.
There's a lot of gaps there. That's in a nutshell. Yeah, it started out mechanically, and then talked about the backstory a lot with Joan. Probably bothered her too much.
No.
Back and forth. But
never.
I'm happy with how Vince came to be, and
were you ready? Were you prepared for Vince to be gone at the end of the season?
Yeah.
If that was.
Yeah, I felt it would have been either way. It would have been a good way to wrap up his story, because in the end he did kill the Leviathan, And so, his arc is somewhat concluded in that regard. But it seems that fate has more in store for him. And he's, obviously thankful for that.
My bro
Maybe he
7.
realized when he killed the Leviathan that he's not ready to die. And maybe that's why 7 appeared to him. So we'll have to see.
We actually had a long conversation about that scene. That was something that we did prepare in advance. There's a lot of things that don't get prepared in advance, but that emotional beat in particular, we did want to talk about because it would be killing off a character in a way that could feel very sudden.
Yeah, I did mention to Joan, I want to do this. I'm going to go in and end the Leviathan's suffering, and no one can stop me. kind of.
I'm like, I'm down for that. Let's do that. But do you really want the character's life to end this way? He still has more things to live for. He's just gotten, like, do they really want to lose a second crew member today?
Yeah.
Sure.
For a long time, it was a roll of the dice, is what I said. Just roll a die. We'll see what happens.
The die said he lived too, by the way.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah,
Well,
the die said you lived as well.
So I guess it's fate for it to happen that way.
All right, Trevor's coming back for season 2, baby. Let's go.
Yeah, but I was happy to support all of you. It was great to play with you guys. I like playing as Vince. Maybe I put a little bit too much of me in him, but that happens with everyone.
I don't think there's a single tabletop role-playing character out there who exists who doesn't have at least some of whoever created them put into it, right?
Yeah.
It's just gonna happen.
Trevor, be honest. You saw Andromeda and you're like, I want that. Said, I want to kill things with my spear on repeat. Please and thank you. Okay.
I actually don't know what you're referencing.
Season what?
Season 1. Do you not
Pantheon
remember his
Andromeda?
character? Andromeda?
Andy?
Okay,
Oh.
okay.
Andy
Granted,
was kind of a fiend with that site.
I remember now. Okay.
Or the glaive is what it was. Yeah.
yeah, I was gonna
By
say
Chimeros.
it wasn't a spear, it was a glaive.
Yeah. It it had nothing to do with that, honestly. It was just I thought a spear would be a good ranged weapon, and it was thematically nice. Joan originally wanted to be a trident, and I think she kept saying it was a trident, and I was like, no, it's a spear. It's an astrum spear.
Harpoon. I think harpoon.
Harpoon, yes,
that
was it.
For.
Harpoon.
I'm still
But then every time I
I'm
imagine
gonna die
in my
on
head,
that
I see
hill.
like a silvery spear with runes down the side. I couldn't see a harpoon because, I think wooden shaft with a metal head, and that didn't seem magical and powerful to me.
Question for you, Vince, from one of the viewers. Now that his arc is resolved, would Vince be thinking about searching for home or happy on the seas for years to come?
He would certainly be interested in searching for home, and he'd bring it up to the crew. He would tell them, like, look, I haven't been home for a long time. I haven't had an opportunity to do so. If we don't have another direction, I'd like to consider going back there. I know where it is on a map. I can find it. I am a navigator after all. Yeah, I think that's what I'd probably do, what he would probably do moving forward. Part of him is probably scared to see what's happened to his family and to see if the money has truly been getting to them.
Mm-hmm.
He assumes that the money was able to provide for them, to give them a house. Maybe they have a mansion at this point. The Astrum.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. You show up and they're actually in just like this huge mansion. They're like, "Oh, hi, honey, you're home."
I mean, for all I know, she could have remarried. I don't know.
That would be so devastating, though, if you came home and they were like doing fine without you.
Yeah, it could be, and that's
so
those would be some emotions. And so if we want that to happen, we got to do this.
Stop, Joan. Stop,
Joan. Stop thinking.
Joan's thinking. I see her doing it.
Stop.
Can we cartoon animate some horns on Joan's head just for but a moment?
I cannot.
And like they're just
Yeah, but
Flames
as
start
she's
crawling
thinking more
underneath.
and more. The horns just keep growing
Hmm.
bigger and bigger as she's like thinking.
I was thinking more of like an animated Grinch face, but we'll go with that.
Oh,
You know that
okay.
Grinch smile from the
Yeah.
old movie. The
Little twirls.
yeah, and the hairs go smiley too. Yeah.
Yeah.
that's just my hair sticks up and
Yeah. But thank you very much for asking that question. I've thought
Like-
about that myself. Yeah, I don't know. I'd love to see. I can only conceptualize what would be the case.
oh,
But
I
yeah,
promise
he
you,
would
Joan
definitely
could
look
do
for his
so much
family.
worse.
Joan could do so
Joan
much
could do
worse.
so much worse.
Yes.
I'm
yes,
a
she
big
could.
softie, okay? Like I joke all the time about, oh, I'm gonna kill my players off. I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna get you. But like in the end, my goal as a dungeon master is to tell a good story with my friends, and a lot of the time, that doesn't work out if those friends are dead.
I mean,
So-
you
True.
could have fooled me
That's
when you
true.
tried to kill when Astrum Artrax stabbed me through the chest and left me to die, and I was paralyzed and on 2
I-
death
Oh my
I
saves.
gosh.
was like this close to panicking because
What a moment. What a moment.
So I'm probably gonna lay off of the traitor turnaround characters for a bit because you guys saw that one coming from a mile away after Saren from
I know,
season
I-
1, and
I-
yeah,
The players
not
did, but
watch
I tried to
campaign
play it like
1?
I wouldn't. You know, Vince would have trusted his old captain, and so
Yeah.
he did. You know,
I-
and told everyone else to trust his gut.
I definitely did not. I was like, this guy is sketch. Honestly, that moment, like with KO and Vincent, I think that like really like set our bond as like right hand man and captain as like, yeah, this is it.
I mean,
Um,
that's why I loved that moment so much, right? Like part of the point of isolating Trevor specifically from the crew was to show Vincent that he's important to his crew and that his crew is better off with him than without him.
And I
Um,
can't do it on my own either.
Exactly.
I get destroyed in a 1v1 against a dude that gets 2 sneak attack
This is
rounds
this
on
is
me.
the guy who
Yeah,
tried
it
to
was
fight
a
the
little rough.
Leviathan on his own. You really thought you could 1v1 the Leviathan, dude?
Yeah, I mean,
This was your
come on.
wake up call.
He's literally been living inside of this creature with nobody else's help for like maybe years, you know? And
Well,
now he has a
it's however
tentacle
long.
arm.
Yeah, however long I was with the crew. That's how long he's
it
been in
was like with KO, like he got in the middle of 7 of them and he still couldn't save Vince from going down to 0 HP.
So
But I think-
narratively, this is showing like the difference between what happens when they're isolated, right?
Mhm.
But also it got to be for me a really satisfying moment. I want to remind you all that when he finally showed up in that final battle, Astrum Artax did absolutely nothing to the party. Like
No,
Okay.
no, he did not.
You did not.
I want to emphasize that like he had this entire setup that I spent a lot of time thinking out where that tentacle arm of his has a paralytic poison, which is what got you in the first place and why I had to attack you twice because the first time you passed the save for the darn thing. But the whole concept for the character in combat is that he would paralyze you with the arm and then hit you with a critical hit smite from his weapon.
Oh gosh.
That was the whole concept. But he didn't get to do it because you guys just beat the ever-loving tar out of him. And I was so sad.
Yeah.
But I'm glad I got to have that one little moment of like, of getting to... I heard a post recently that says, let the DM monologue. Let them do their evil monologue because they're saying goodbye to their character. And that was 100% the case with Astro Martax because I know what's going to happen.
Hey, like I had a question about Artax. Could have we saved him? Could have we brought him out of whatever was done to him? Was the tentacle corrupting him, or is he just so far gone after being in here and watching all his crewmates die?
I will say that the tentacle was definitely corrupting him. That was definitely something that I had planned. Could you have saved him? I will say that this is tabletop role playing, and there is always a possibility that you could have saved him. I couldn't like narrow down where that world was, but like in a world of infinite possibilities, there was definitely a chance he could have been saved. But
So remember, my sword like hurt his tackle, so I could have cut the arm off, but then I couldn't like do anything with the inside part of it.
that would have been as far as your headcanons go, yeah, in chat, like that's honestly pretty close to correct. The corrupting wasn't exactly reversible. There was a very good chance that even if he did get out, even if he did have the corrupting influence removed, he would have still died. Because he very much would have died without it. It was very much keeping him alive. There was a part at the end where I was considering having what happened to the Sahagwin happen to them, and that was my foreshadowing for him. That they were being, corrupted and their bodies puppeted, right? That was my little foreshadowing for Astrum Artax, except the man didn't actually die. So,
follow-up question. When the Leviathan dies, does the tentacle thing die as well? Or was it a separate entity?
I would have considered it a separate entity.
Okay, gotcha.
But I mean, very much part of the Leviathan that was basically broken off from it to.
They're not going to be living long at the bottom of the ocean.
That's true.
That we know of.
There's always the potential for the future. We'll see.
I'm pretty sure Victor's dead.
Victor.
Yeah.
I totally forgot. But we also I picked up the cat in the last episode and named it Victor.
That Victor is still alive, but I can canonically confirm that Victor.
That Victor is still alive.
The cat Victor is still alive, but the original Victor, upon whom he is named, the Leviathan, I can canonically confirm that he is dead. Like, word of God, he is dead. He's not coming
rest in
back.
peace.
Rest in peace, dude. You're not happening.
My God.
Just like Bronzebeard.
Oh my God.
Canonically,
for context for that,
Canonically
Blondebeard was
dead.
dead the whole time, but Chris refused to believe
I
it.
refused.
And we kept telling him.
I had a long discussion with myself about whether or not Blondebeard should still be alive. Greenbeard, I believe, is what Mossbeard, Brinebeard, something like that. Well, Mossbeard. Like, I had a long discussion with myself about should this character be alive, because in a lot of ways his story parallels Vince's, except I wanted them to, in a way, have a similar experience, but only one of them was lucky enough to actually be able to get their revenge. So, in a way, both of their stories were about letting go of revenge, because the whole concept of the story was about freedom. It's about what are the things that are binding these characters, that are tying them to, what are keeping them from being free. And for the two of you, it was vengeance. It was a vengeance story, and your vengeance arcs ended in very different ways. Both of you let go, but only one of you actually got that vengeance. And I think that can be a powerful thing too, that you don't always get the closure.
Well, and so the thing about KO's vengeance though is I would feel like it's more, and me and Joan talked about this, is like our vengeance is like, my vengeance was more of like a misunderstanding. Like, he thought Youthfon was going to gosh, can't think of the word,
mutiny.
Have a mutiny against Mossbeard, but in the end we both enjoyed serving for Mossbeard, but he just didn't see that, and he just thought, oh yeah, these guys are really popular in the crew and they're going to take over and throw me overboard and stuff like that.
Like the man was a paranoid jerk, and he saw the success that Vaughn was having. And was like, that man's going to try and usurp me as captain because I'm just not good enough. That was the idea behind the character and why he was so convinced, so insecure about his position in the crew.
Well, I mean, as a captain, he never got the respect from those two, though. They never called him by his real name. How else is he supposed to feel?
It was like a friendly joke, though. It wasn't like... I mean, granted, we were both very young when we joined his crew, and we were like delinquents when we were at our original hometown. So it was definitely... I mean, when I was writing the story, I knew, hey, this guy, I want to have a brother. He's dead. My ex-captain killed him. My goal is to get revenge for my brother and all that kind of stuff. And like the other thing is like, I think this campaign, like KO is not like a leadership character. So, like, he did not want to be a leader of the crew. He wanted Youthfon to be a captain of the crew and him be his right hand / left hand man. So, but it didn't work out that way because Youthfon died. So a lot of this campaign is like Youthfon, or not Youthfon, KO learning how to lead people. Now, granted, I did not do a very good job at some points, but I did my best at trying to portray that. I came up with plans. That was my job, and execute them.
Clayton, I just noticed that you turned on your mic. I wanted to know if you had something to say. Or...
No, I'm all good.
Okay, cool. Long, awkward pause as we wait for you to turn on your mic. It's all good. We all are learning the technology, learning how to use it better. So, speaking of technology, I'm going to close some things in the side tab that I don't need right now. Not going to close this window. I did want to get to one last thing before we finish up with Trevor. The good berry bit.
It's like my cat bit. It's like my cat bit.
Like, if this was a survival themed campaign, we would not have used Goodberry as much as a bit. Like, it would have been devastating to your resources. You would have only had so much mistletoe to work off of. But it wasn't a survival campaign. Instead, it became a comedy bit. And, like, I felt like that was a very organic thing. I'm pretty sure that wasn't the thing that got planned.
You guys talked about them in more episodes than you did, for sure.
For sure. I think they got talked about in every episode.
Yeah,
honestly.
I'm pretty sure we had said it at
And that wasn't not intentional. It just, like, it first happened organically, and I kind of just rolled with it. I was like, all right, so Vince really likes good berries, and apparently they've also made it so he can't taste anything else because that's all he's been eating for years.
That was
medically confirmed, by the way.
Medically confirmed.
I feel like Vince also likes plain oatmeal, grilled chicken, that sort of thing.
Everything's just super plain and boring for Vince.
Vince's favorite dish is salt, potatoes, and steak, and those are the only 3 ingredients allowed.
Oh gosh.
I total mood. I mean, I don't often talk about this on stream, but I'm autistic, and one of the things that autism gives you is a sensitivity to stuff, and one of my biggest sensitivities is to taste, and so like hard mood, dude, hard mood. I mean, not steak and potatoes. I probably go for more of a chicken and mashed potatoes myself, but yeah, mood.
The Goodberry bit was, I think that was like a good, like you could always joke about the Goodberry bit, and like we could always if it was like a serious moment, we just mentioned Goodberries, and it just becomes a funny moment.
Yeah.
I was hoping for the moment that one of my teammates would go down and I'd stuff a good berry in their mouth and then they come back to 1 HP. I was just
Come back
waiting for
to-
that and didn't
shoot.
happen. No.
Oh, I'm alive
Just-
again.
yeah,
What is
I
this
like
awful
I
taste in my
manually
mouth?
operate their jaw. Like,
Oh my gosh! And then when we
Swallow.
eat
Down their
it,
throat.
and then when we eat it, we actually lose our taste. Am I gonna
It
taste
was
No,
the
no, no.
prolonged. It was the prolonged
Just-
exposure.
Yeah,
to
that's
good
true.
berry. It wasn't eat
We
one.
did. We
you're
did say
gone.
that. That's right.
Yeah, but it takes 1 action to eat a good berry, so it's not very good in combat, and you can only eat 1, and it gives you 1 HP. And so it has no use in combat. There were times where I was seriously looking at my spell sheet and I was like, I want to get rid of good berry, but I can't.
That's why I did
Because
it.
it's the bit. It's like there are other first level spells I could use, but I have to do good berry.
You gotta commit to the bit.
That was me and
Fortunately,
season...
for the most part, it was just Zephyr Strike and Hunter's Mark. Hunter's Mark for the most part.
Oh yeah.
That thing
Um,
carried
But
your
I could have gotten like
damage.
Holy.
sleep. I'm pretty sure. There's other spells I could have gotten that could have been useful, like utility wise. But
I mean, you cast Spike Growth once, and that absolutely destroyed.
That was
one
the level
section
2
of
spell,
Twice.
the
It was
though.
on the ship too.
It's a good
Yeah.
spell.
Yeah, it didn't work too well on the ship, unfortunately, because like if there's a little area that's not spiky, they can just climb up it.
I was talking about
should.
the Life Bloods.
Yeah, I didn't
Yeah,
use
it
my
was
action
Life Blood.
utility very good in that last fight for the first few
That's
turns.
okay.
Instead of putting Spike Growth out, I could have done better, but whatever.
I mean,
Maybe
these
Pass
are-
Without Trace would have been better, and then none of them could see us, and we just sneak through.
I don't think you're sneaking
Yeah.
a ship
On a
through.
boat?
Like, I allowed the whole create shape water to create a wave to carry the boat because it was freaking awesome. But no, you're not getting away with Pass Without a Trace on the entire boat.
What about just like a
We almost
large
got away with
portion of the
skipping an
boat?
entire combat session, but we decided not to because we
Thank
didn't want
you.
it. We
Thank
felt
you.
bad about all your
Thank you.
preparation, but we were like, wait, we just made the part we need. We don't actually need to go into the heart and risk dying.
Yeah, I was like, huh. Well, so that was the episode. My mic was not, or my internet wasn't working. So I was just sitting there. I was like, do we really need to do this? Like, do I really need to go fight this?
Thank you for fighting it. It was one of the more memorable combats of the
It
series.
was a
I
cool
think.
combat session.
So-
And then we
so-
had the whole thing with Cookie too, so that wouldn't have happened.
Yeah,
God.
I
didn't want to have to do that, but like that's just felt so right, to be honest.
Mhm.
the other thing is, I actually was like, wait, okay, hang on. I actually want to go to the combat because I might pull the sword out this combat. I was like counting the combats of like, okay, how many combats do we have left? Okay, still haven't pulled the sword yet. Okay, how many more combats do
Are
we
you
have?
gonna give the sword to the rightful owner or what? Intern deserves the
Intern-
sword.
No,
He's
no,
a
no,
part
no,
of the
no, no.
bloodline.
Deserves it.
Technically, I'm neither of us are the correct owner of it. Technically,
The
it's the
fact that
pirate
he's been drawing it and cleaning it for years maybe tells you that he's
Yeah,
the true
yeah.
owner.
No,
I
no,
mean,
Yeah, I
also
think
you're a barbarian monk. You punch things and use stunning strike and fury of blows. You can't punch things with a sword. I don't know. I guess you can.
So down in
Yes,
the chat,
Chad,
you're
that's
talking about episode 7 was the heart. That's the one we were talking about, where with the chambers and the flooding
Mhm.
and like the downside of episode 7 and episode 10 was that the two combats were incredibly long because of the way that they were designed, right? Because you have the flooding of the chambers that you have to worry about. You have like all of the different minions that all have to do things in that big final fight as they're trying to race out of there. And that's one of the things that I like to do when I'm designing combat encounters for tabletop RPGs. And this will be really helpful for those of you watching at home on Twitch or YouTube. When I design a fight, I try to create an alternate win condition that isn't just KO all the bad guys. Like KOing all the bad guys is definitely an option, but having different things that can be win and loss conditions for the party can make a fight a lot more interesting. And also the way that you use the environment, and you definitely saw us use the environment a lot this season. Big focus on the fight design, but we'll get into more of that later. Anything else we want to talk about with Trevor? We just got done talking about the Goodberry bits.
I'm cool moving on.
Well,
I don't got anything else.
My face will start turning red if I'm in the spotlight for much longer. I have this thing where like if the spotlight's brought onto me like in person, my ears turn red. I don't know why. It just happens.
you're blushing. It's
cute.
called blushing.
That's
Yeah, is
cute.
that what
Show us your
happens?
ears
Yeah.
right now.
No.
We'll save that for the Patreon.
Yeah.
I have long hair. You can't see them anyways.
Whoa.
Yeah,
I have
subscribe
long
to
hair
our
and you can see my
Patreon.
ears, so.
Yeah, but your
Subscribe to our
glasses, like, hold
Patreon.
your
We
hair
might
back.
we might
No, I
show
just
some
push my
good
hair
couple
back,
feet
but-
pics.
What? Never mind.
Anyway,
Let's move on.
let's move on here. Moving on. So, Rae, you are on deck. Azure was the character that I did the most talking with the player about before the season.
We talked a
you
lot.
we talked a lot about Azure and what we wanted to do with the character, in particular the memories thing, the flashbacks.
Yeah. I really wanted a character that could like kind of get something more out of like the general environment. I guess Azure came about like a whole bunch of different ways. Of like I felt like I had like to climb a mountain compared to like all the other characters from the previous seasons. Like I felt like everyone always had such like great, amazing characters. And it was like my first time at the table, so I had to have a really great character. And so I was like trying to get something that I thought would be like really different from everybody else's characters that have been played before, that had his like own special thing that really set him apart, but enhance the world around us. And I feel like I did a really good job with Azure to do that. I thought he was so much fun to play. He was really, really, really fun.
It was so much fun to watch too.
That's good. That's good.
Just
We win.
just the lore that Azure brought into the campaign. Like one thing I want to like we'll eventually get into detail about, but this was actually a setting that I wrote, like I've been writing for years. That we got into, and Rae brought things into this lore that completely changed my perception on some things.
Ooh.
Just Vincent as a character is completely new to my plot. That
Vincent?
king, I will say that king, sorry, not
Oh,
Vincent,
Victor.
Victor as a character is incredibly important to the plot now, and he didn't exist in it before. But now he is a hugely influential character in the world that we've created, the world of the Skyfall Archipelago, which I think I only name dropped like 2 or 3 different times. That name is important, though, by the way, to the overall overarching lore. Maybe we'll get into that in the future. If not with this crew, then maybe with another crew, because I love this setting and would love to go back to it. But more to the point. We got a lot of lore through you, and watching you try to puzzle it out was so much fun.
Yeah, lore is like always my favorite part, because of course like being in production in the back seat. Season 1, Joan would give me a lot of like extra tidbits like before and after sessions. And so I got to learn a lot more about season 1's lore, and I was like putting pieces together already. And of course, like I don't have to play a character in the first 2 seasons, so I could start puzzling things together, and that just be like how I kept myself entertained as a player. So season 3, I really wanted to like continue that and have that be like a big part of my character. I also just wanted something that was like really weird. So it's like, oh, he's a noble, and now they're transitioned to a pirate because of like all the reasons of like his backstory that we got into with Irma, his wife, who didn't get named, but her name is Irma.
I actually completely forgot her name. I'm so
I did too.
sorry.
On the day. Her name's Imra. I-M-R-A. Imra.
Listen,
And-
we do a couple of these. We've done a lot of these. There's a lot of names.
There's a lot of
There's
names.
a lot of names.
I will
Azure
never
has-
get Trevor's character's name right, because it's always going to be Tristan or Trevor or Vincent.
Yeah.
I'll answer to all of them. It's cool.
That's the problem.
You won't correct us.
Tristan's too close to my real name. I realize that. I did that on purpose because I was like, oh, it's me. Like, also, Tristan's a name that I'm fond of. Yeah, so it's like if I wasn't named Trevor, I'd be named Tristan.
I'm sorry.
But yeah, Azure has like 4 other siblings, so like most of their names that weren't Hisari, his sister, like I don't remember most of them. They're all named though.
I have like 2 or 3 pages of backstory from you somewhere about
It's
all of
5
this.
pages long.
5 pages.
Whoa.
Thank you.
I have it up. It is because I was like, if we have notes, it's 5 pages long
Man,
of just
I feel
everything about Azure, about all the memories he's gotten, like what his life was like on Thessalia, and why he left, and like his arranged marriage to Imra, and how that was, and how they didn't like each other, and how rough it was.
I feel so weak then. I only did like 1 page, I'm pretty sure, for KO.
I just felt like there was so much pressure. Like it was my first time at the table that I had to make a really deep character with a lot of different avenues. And like one big question that he didn't know, which was like, who is his god? Because it's not the elven god that he was forced to, worship and work in the temple for, because like he was a noble and was essentially sold to the church by his parents.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, who does he actually worship? And that was like the big one that Joan and I talked a lot about who the god was going to be. And Joan was like, you're probably not going to meet him or like deal with it. And I said, okay, that's fine. Like we don't have to. And I was lied to about that.
That at the time was not a lie. I have a list of things from chats between Clayton and I about all of this stuff that got added in partway through the season. And partway through the season was one of those things I added was the Leviathan is the god of freedom.
Mm-hmm.
But the Leviathan is also this guy. We'll get more into some of that stuff that was decided partway through the season. We'll definitely talk more through my thought process. But focusing back on Azure, like I was really appreciative of the flashbacks as use for, like, you gave me a narrative device that I could use to play on things, and I was really grateful for that.
It was great. I loved getting flashbacks, like just randomly something would happen. And if you're like, oh, here's something that's happening that Azure's seeing, I was like, oh, great. He's going even crazier than he already is. Just like weird stuff. And getting the memories from all the crewmates was really fun when we were all building our characters. That was really fun to help with everybody.
Yeah.
It was also like weird. I was like, hey, can you tell me something about your character that like my character probably shouldn't know, that's like of mild importance but isn't that big?
I mean, and you did also great in the fact of like keeping that above table. Like it's based off our interaction for that specific information. Did you curtail your kind of perspective of all of our characters using that? Because I feel like you didn't. You didn't let it influence you until the moment it rose, which was chef's kiss, honestly.
It was like Azure has like, although like I couldn't list every possible memory Azure's ever had, he's probably seen like lifetimes of people in 150 years, right?
Right.
Like he's like the oldest member of the crew, but like, ages in D&D are weird. So while he's the oldest, like mentally he's not. Like Vince is the oldest among all of us.
Vince is the most mature.
The most mature, right? Because like, Azure's probably only like 25, maybe, if you were to convert elf ears to human ears. So like, what is the difference to him between like, oh, here's my crewmate's family that he left, and here's my crewmate's, meeting people and seeing someone else bullied and then saved, to like probably witnessing like a murder happen, or like a theft, or like someone's mundane dinner conversation, right? Like all these different things. And so it's like these are small insights to all of my crewmates, but that does not make them everything.
Right.
But getting to like connect Cookie's memories as I was
Oh,
going through
that was
yours,
super good.
and like realizing, oh, that's something that I got told like way back, like months ago, was
Mhm.
really exciting.
My one thing that I kind of regret is because I think Kao's like the only crew member that didn't really get a memory.
Yeah, because it was more of like how we like met.
Yeah, because our memory, like the way me and Azure basically set up our memory. My memory was I think my memory was like I was like holding Youthfon as he died. I think that was like the memory I said or something like that. I don't remember off the top of my head. But I like everyone had like a really like big moment, and KO kind of like got left out. I think it's just because like we just didn't have time for it, and there were so many other things KO was doing and worrying about.
I want to counterpoint that and point out that there was a very big memory that was related to your backstory, and it just didn't come from your character.
Oh yeah,
It
well I
came
mean
from
intern,
Laura.
yeah, intern.
It came. Oh no, well I mean intern, and yeah, intern had a memory, but I mean from Horos.
Yeah, Horos's memory was also cool.
Oh yes, that memory was very
Of the crew.
Yeah, of my ex crew. Yeah, that's that memory was also very important of like how Youthfon got killed and everything like that, and how the Mossbeard pirates got swallowed by the Leviathan as well.
Like the memories, like the second I found out that Rae was like, I want to see like have a memories theme going on with the god of memories. I'm like, oh my god, this is flashback territory. This is like we're gonna do some Naruto level flashbacks. Is what we're gonna do.
Oh
We're gonna
no.
flash back to that thing we saw 10 minutes ago, like it was important.
Yep.
Except no, I had so much fun with the Victor flashbacks because I knew that they would be so far out of the context for anyone who's in here. And I'm like, who's giving you these memories? Who could possibly be nearby enough to be giving you these memories? The Leviathan.
Leviathan itself. And that was like another thing that like I never thought about was like I kind of thought about getting like memories from the Leviathan, but it was never like a thing I thought like, oh, you should probably try that and see what you get.
You've been doing it the whole time.
I never
Yeah.
thought of that. I always thought it was just gonna be like it was just gonna be like this giant like prehistoric animal. No, it's a robot, an automaton. I was not expecting that.
It is a biomechanical creature that is piloted by a human brain.
Yeah, I was not expecting that.
Clayton and I sat down and had a very long discussion about what creature type this qualifies as. We ultimately decided it qualifies as a construct, but
and an aberration, I think, was our secondary.
Yeah. Question from the chat: was Leviathan a god separately first, and then later you made it the same god as Azure's? The Leviathan was not originally a god. Originally, the Leviathan was going to be the biomechanical menace that I wrote it as, and Victor was always going to be a part of that. But I guess I changed the concept of how he was going to be experienced by the party partway through. This is one of those things that I actually decided on partway through this season.
That's crazy.
Yes.
Like the memories were always intended. It was always intending to lead you back to Victor and to the brain. Which is one of the reasons I was like, yeah, guys, save the brain for last, please. But everything else, what if you guys decided to whatever order you wanted to go in, you could have. I'd have been told, and I would have adjusted the encounter accordingly.
I honestly just thought like when I was like thinking about like planning like the route we were gonna do, I just thought it would be the easiest way to just go closest first and then make our way out. That was just like my thought process into it.
It's also really funny, like we're talking about like Victor and like Leviathan and God. I had like originally pieced together that King Makar had been the god as like the creations, like
Ooh.
King and
all of it.
Mercar, yeah.
Yeah,
Don't worry, he'll come up again if we
I'm
ever
sure
revisit
he
the
will.
setting. He's too important not
He's-
to.
for sure. But it was that kind of like, oh, kings are seen as gods. That's how everything happened, and he like sent all these things out. It fit within like a pre like notion of like what a god could be to me, which was really fun. To then have it like flipped on its head, that it was like, oh, it was his friend, it's his advisor.
Flip this.
Yeah.
Was that same level of methodical nature applied to picking the Tempest domain, or is that just something that you're comfortable playing? Like,
I
you
never
felt really
played a
comfortable-
cleric before.
Oh, okay.
This was my first time playing a cleric, and it was like, oh, well, we're pirates. I made Thaltia on the sea, and like Azure escaping into the night with his sister to go like walk the shore
Mhm.
was like a big part of the backstory. So because of like that, and that's where he started getting his memories and his devotion to the sea, that a Tempest domain made the most sense.
Mhm.
Versus like choosing like a life domain cleric and like really being the healer, because I got
Right.
like first pick pretty much, one of the people that got like first pick on what to choose for like the crew. And so I was like, well, I don't really want to be a navigator. Maybe I don't want to deal with weapons. I don't want to be a cook. So I chose like the doctor. So then I was like, oh, I'll be a cleric, and then like kind of made everything around that later.
Yeah, I pretty much gave no one a chance to be a captain. Joan was like, "Here, you guys can decide what roles. It's first come first serve." And I like, no joke, read the message like 5 minutes later. I'm like, I want to be the captain, and I just typed it out. And
It
I
was
was like,
less than 5 minutes.
yeah, I was
It
like,
was like pretty much
Definitely less than 5
instantaneous.
minutes.
I
Yeah.
think you had it already typed out and just you
I think
hit, wait
I
to
think
hit
you'd been
enter.
asking me this, asking if you could be the captain up to the start of the series.
yeah, I pretty much was.
Um,
So I think the reason why I wanted to be the captain is because like, I think right now in my life I've been stepping more into like a leadership role in like my personal life and everything like that. So I think I've used this to help me like kind of like learn like leadership skills and everything like that. Now, granted, I'm not perfect yet, but I think KO had grown a lot since the start of the campaign.
I do want to say that I had talked to everyone individually and kind of given them goals. And the goal is to sort of like give everybody an opportunity to improve as role players, to improve. I mean, because we are kind of actors, but we're not actors. Like,
I don't get
like
paid the big bucks.
we're putting on a performance, but also at the same time, like this is a game between us that everyone else just happens to be privy to. Like we love our audience, but the game is between us. We're just showing it off to everybody, right?
Mhm.
And so getting to see everybody grow as players has been so fantastic for me, especially since so many of you were involved in other seasons of the show. Everyone here was at least present for campaign 1. And getting to see you all grow and improve from that first game is so cool to me.
I'm still so sad I had to leave halfway through. So sad.
I think
I'm-
that within that as well, though. I mean, the players have leveled up, but I mean, so is everything else. I think as well. All things considered,
Production's been amazing, yeah.
yeah. Well,
We have
that
definitely
the
leveled
world
up.
building. Not to say that there wasn't even countless hours put into Pantheon City. You kind of, I don't know if anyone else gets this impression, but you can tell that Joan's incredibly proud of this particular setting and world, and
This setting
it
is
definitely
my
showed.
baby.
Yeah.
Okay. But we didn't do any pirates in the first 2 seasons, even when we had opportunities to do so. I love pirates. I love seafaring adventures. I'm a huge fan of One Piece, Pirates of the Caribbean. If it has pirates in it, it's better. It's better for having pirates in it. And so I was like, this season I want to do pirates. There was another reason why we did this season. After season 1, back when we were still calling ourselves Bronco Tabletop because we were hanging out at Boise State, they were letting us use their facilities in order to allow us to run it. And big thanks to Boise State for that.
Thanks, Doc.
Thanks, Doc. Obviously, we've moved away at this point. We're not affiliated with Boise State. I suppose we never were. We were just using their facilities because we were all students. But then we all graduated. And I was very sad and upset because they could no longer let us use the facilities after our first season because we were graduating. And these folks here, these wonderful folks, I had been devastated by this. I was like, oh no, we're not going to be able to do this anymore. We're going to have to struggle to like find a machine powerful enough to run this. What are we going to do? And Rae had to spend the 48 hours from the end of our stream with everyone else's help putting together the Lost in Leviathan theme.
Yep,
Like,
it was fun.
I think it was Trevor, you said, who came up with the theme, the name.
Yeah, I had asked for like a theme so I could like make like the background and stuff. Jarid told us about like the video software we're using for all the cameras. And I threw together like an entire like OBS setup for us within like, yeah, it was like 48 hours. And I was like, hey, someone join this call. Hey, let me test the audio. Hey, how does this look? It's like just throwing things in a Discord chat. And I was just like,
there are few times in my life where I've cried that hard because that was the single most touching thing anybody's done for me. And so naturally, the second that the prospect of me running campaign 3 came up, I was like, we're doing this. We're doing Lost in Leviathan. We're going to take this amazing setup that we've already created. We're going to improve upon it. And then we're going to tell it in one of my personal settings, one of my personal world building. Like, I love Pantheon City, and we'll definitely come back to the world of Grisha. I love that setting.
I need closure. Please, I need it.
But the Skyfall Archipelago is my baby.
Oh,
like
for
this
sure.
This is my heart and soul, my child, my like we'll definitely come back to this someday. I don't think that's the question, whether with this crew or with another crew. We are definitely coming back to this setting because I loved it so much. Are we at the point where we're starting to transition into questions for the Dungeon Master and production?
Yes,
Where we are?
so,
Yeah.
speaking of leveling up production, Joan, the combats. I mean, they were incredible this season.
I want
really.
to credit you for that because I don't think the combats would have been half as good without your help. Like, we put our heads together as Dungeon Masters and drew on both of our strengths there. Like I mentioned earlier, like when I design encounters, I base them around like where are they fighting? Where are they fighting, and what's the alternate goal? And now, to be fair, you can still have games in which beating the bad guy up is the ultimate goal. I think that's fine. But having other goals makes it feel a little bit less like you're bumping action figures together and trying to get higher numbers, and a little more like focus, like what's important about the terrain. Like, how does the terrain influence you? The first fight, the acid, it means that there are bad guys that can pull you down into it. It means that there's these ladder ropes and these suspended platforms that players have to find ways to get onto. We got to see Cookie's flight and get used to great effect there, and how useful height is.
It made the setting feel very real and very dangerous.
Yeah, it's huge commendation to you guys for being, I mean, both, it's just so much on the same page, and everything just felt so succinct between the storytelling narrative side and then like the battle map, the soundtracks, just all so much on the same page. It was amazing.
Yeah.
I take zero credit for the battle map. That was all Clayton. The battle maps were all Clayton. I just added monsters and stuff to them.
The soundtracks too.
Yeah,
the soundtracks.
You made
the
some
soundtracks were
season.
so good and like so like well timed as well. Like it's like
thank you guys.
Something
the organ
just is so scary to me still to this day.
If I ever hear
I wish I had my setup today so that I could do it again for you right now.
Hear another organ. No.
But
Put
yeah,
it in post.
I was just so excited to be on the production side of things this time, to be able to do that for you guys, to have live music in the background, to have those effects happening, to have be able to be reactive to the story in that way. And like you guys said, I feel like it was awesome to see your guys' reactions to the emotion, the emotions that the music elicited from you guys in those moments was incredible. Because I mean, it was literally me for, hours and hours putting those tracks together by myself in my bedroom, just listening to them and hoping that they would hit the right chord. No pun intended. But yeah, thank you so much. It's been a dream to make it for you. And Joan definitely gave me a challenge this season to work with some more natural sounding instruments, to move away from some more stuff that I'm comfortable with, and honestly, in terms of music, and into some new areas. And I feel like I've gained a lot more skills, and also I was able to make music even though I wasn't super comfortable with it.
Yeah.
And it worked out great.
Also, if you guys haven't if you haven't seen season 1 and 2, Clayton also did music and the soundtrack for those as well. So please go check those out and appreciate his work.
Incredibly talented.
He's
Seriously.
incredibly talented. He's
Thank you, you
I
guys.
don't have any words, because he just has done so well with us, and
How do
we
we-
hope he continues to do awesome.
How do we not have your OSTs on YouTube?
Yeah.
Like,
We'll work on
I
that.
feel like we need to get your
I know.
songs on YouTube, because
I should
they
do
are
something about that.
fantastic. We'll chat
100%.
more about that later, but
I have a question for both Joan and Clayton. We often draw inspiration from a lot of things that we enjoy, especially when it comes to Dungeons and Dragons. Would you say that out of these three, who would be the biggest influence on the way that you approach both story and world building? Either Brandon Lee Mulligan, Matt Mercer, both for respectively from Roll20 and Critical Role, or Matt Colville from his YouTube channel, kind of really helping take lessons in being a better dungeon master and putting them onto a screen.
Brennan Lee
Yes, sir.
Mulligan.
Yeah.
That's not even in question. Like, the whole layout of Minis and Mayhem, which is my baby, my show, is very heavily inspired by Dimension 20 and the way that Brennan Lee Mulligan runs things. And I am, as a person and as a dungeon master, I draw a lot of stuff from Mr. Mulligan, from BLM, and the way that he handles things. I do still draw notes from other dungeon masters. Abria Iyengar is really fantastic.
True,
Again,
yeah.
Matt Mercer, Matt Colville, the Matts.
Yeah, the Mats.
But also, like, just dungeon masters that I've worked with, personal friends of mine. I've taken notes from. I believe I've played with both Clayton and Trevor. I know Clayton for certain. I've played with. I mean, you saw me on streaming campaign too. But even before that, a couple times outside of that, Auntie Deb was a delight of a character to play. But yes, definitely a lot more Brennan Lee Mulligan. You can actually see that in the way that I world build, in that my concepts for these campaigns tend to be, here's idea A, here's idea B, and you smash them together, and it makes something new.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very similar to Dimension 20. Big inspiration for me. I'd love to meet him someday.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, we can definitely see that. I mean, it makes for some great seasons and some great campaigns of play.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like in terms of how I structure battles and how I try and make everything into like a cohesive sort of show,
Mm-hmm.
I do draw on Critical Role for that, definitely. And also shout out to NADPOD, because those guys do some awesome stuff. Gosh, I can't. Brian Murphy, incredible dungeon master. He does some great stuff there. And just making combats feel very intense, always introducing like new enemies, new different mechanics, different things that'll shock your players, because this game has been played for a long time and everybody feels like they know what they're doing a little bit around the table. So it's fun to spice things up a little bit.
I mean, we could definitely see your influence in the encounter design this season. Oh my goodness. Well, let's talk a little about that, about the way we design those encounters. Like there was one map that we ended up not using, because there had been kind of a misconception there on the original concept. There were a couple of those. One of those misconceptions added to, I think, the coolest fight of the entire show. But I remember you had like this prison map. Like instead of the heart map, what
Oh my
originally was
gosh.
some kind of like bloody prison or something?
Yeah, so what happened is we got a bunch of assets for this season, so that I could build the maps.
Took a huge
I
amount of
invested
pressure off
in
my
some
shoulders.
assets. And unfortunately, there weren't a ton of enemies that really fit the theme of like an underwater Leviathan creature. And I was like, there are a bunch of dead, like sailors down here. Maybe this could be like their dungeon, or like, where, I don't know, where all the weird, nasty, like people who have been affected by the Leviathan, where they are quarantined away or
It
something
was
like that.
horrifying.
That's funny.
It definitely was. It was pretty scary. Thankfully, all that stuff was all on the same layer, so we could just wipe it away.
Thankfully, I believe that map ended up becoming the heart map, which
Mhm.
which I don't know if anyone was able to notice through the stream, but that map is actually in the shape of a heart.
An anatomical heart.
Yeah, and
With four chambers placed
4 chambers.
accurately.
Yeah, that was such a fun. Okay, all of these fights were really fun to design.
Mhm.
But the big one that I want to talk about is the penultimate fight, the one in the brain fight.
What a
Oh,
fight!
so much fun.
Yes.
I love I did
So-
one thing.
So the reason I want to bring up that fight is because when I had been talking to Clayton about the enzymes, the terrifying starfish monsters from that first fight, I was talking about like antibodies,
Oh
like
my gosh, I remember
like
this.
like the parts of the body that fight back against virus and disease and stuff. And it's like, yeah, I want to have the players like go up against these antibodies. He misunderstood what I was talking about when I said antibodies, and created these alternate versions of each of the player characters. And I'm
Joan
like,
wanted them to
Clayton,
fight
what are
like little,
these?
like Y-shaped, like, like a protein
I was thinking it'd be
monsters or something.
horrifying monstrosities. I don't know what you're talking about. Like everything in the Leviathan is bigger. And then here you are creating these like alternate versions of the characters, and I'm like, this is 1,000 times cooler than what I had planned. We're doing this. We're doing this. Like we still ended up having the enzymes in there, of course. They were part of the first fight. We still had the
Mhm.
body, trying to kill everybody inside of it. The lifebloods were also a part of that from the second combat in the ribs, I believe, is where that kind of ended up. But the bone marrow with a huge field, but no, that final fight was very much inspired by Clayton. And then he had just randomly built this kind of construct in the middle of the field, the building, and we talked about like, what is this supposed to be? And he's like, oh, I don't know, it's just a building or something, give him something more to fight around than just, open brain space. But I'm like, what are these 4 things? We talked about lightning. We talked about the concept of the lightning rods. I'm really, really upset that none of you figured out the lightning rods. Gosh dang it, I hinted at
Well,
it.
I
so
was kind
Come
of
on,
down.
guys. Brainstorm, huh?
I was down.
We saw it, but we were already too far along. We were just
Yeah,
committed to killing them all.
Yeah.
like so for clarification, this is the one combat that the players actually got together beforehand and actually talked about how to fight this. Because we had a general idea of like so we knew we were gonna fight our own team, our previous selves. So we were like, okay, who is the first person we need to get goes down? So me and Trevor pretty much just were like typing back and forth, like of who we need to deal with, and so we basically were just like, we need to take down Azure.
Well, originally it was Jarid, I think.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think
Originally it was Cookie.
Cookie.
And then we thought about Intern for a little bit because he's a support and he can res people. But then we realized that Azure, I think Jared looked at the Storm.
I looked at Tempest Cleric and I said,
abilities.
"Nah, you got to go,
Yeah.
friend. I'm sorry."
Yeah. And we saw that
Yeah.
they have the Storm, what's it called? Storm something.
Like Ice Storm or something.
Ice Storm, yeah, Ice Storm,
which is
which
the
we
spell
thought
I
would be
used.
Yeah, which we thought would be really bad. So, Jared and I just descended upon Shadow Azure in the first round of combat and took them out immediately before they can even.
I
had the exact same strategy. I was gonna go like hard into Azure because I have to get that healer down. I was gonna hit Azure, Intern, Cookie, and then probably either Keo or I didn't know if it was gonna be Keo or Vincent last.
The coin
Probably.
flip at that point.
Yeah,
It's a coin flip
yeah.
because they
basically-
both are so bulky.
But in retrospect, I realized that it may have been good to take out Shadow Vincent quickly because he deals a lot of damage.
Yeah,
But
we
with
kind of
your-
all overlooked Vincent.
but with your like just because
Yeah,
me and
multi-attack
you
defense.
both attack
Yeah.
2 times in a turn, it's hard to because you have that multi defense thing.
Yeah,
Whatever it
Multi-attack
was.
defense, yeah.
Yeah, multi attack defense.
it's
so
hard
it's
to
like,
focus Vince down. You need to hit him hard once. Is the thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one
so,
real. I mean, the biggest thing is that you two are weak to magic, right? So
Mhm.
if I keep my own Azure alive, if I keep my own Cookie alive,
you
then
didn't do a
coming
very
after you
good job
guys
of that.
No,
So-
I did not. Turn 1 was going to be anti Vincent casting silence on Azure.
Mhm.
That's actually what we
also
originally
had
thought.
that
Yeah,
plan
yeah,
as well.
that's
We
right.
like
You're just like, "Yeah,
the plan
violence."
was the original plan was to have KO grab Azure and just hold on to Azure, and Vince just silence Azure. So it's
But
like
once that fight started, it was very clear how things were going to go right away. I will say though, at the opening, Joan
hear
with the
him.
mist separating everybody, like, how did you guys? I felt very tense in that moment.
I was
Oh, yeah.
terrified.
So
Feel.
scared.
the
like-
mist was
Yeah, the silent. I purposefully left moments of like a good 10+ second period of silence with no music before I started any themes or anything before you guys, just to get that atmosphere going. Before we leave too far away from this, I also want to shout out Emily Axford, who does all of her own music for her campaigns and for NADPOD.
Yes.
Amazing job as well. But anyways, yeah, this you guys were scared about that shit.
yeah. So
So
Excuse my
scared.
language.
for KO, I mean, for me personally, it's like I spent the whole campaign thinking, oh man, Mossbeard, he's alive, he's gotta be yada yada yada, and like everyone's just saying, nah, he's dead, bro, yada yada yada, and so when the fog basically came and I saw none of my crew, I'm like, oh snap, it's gonna happen again. I'm gonna lose my crew again. And as like KO as like a captain, he doesn't want that to happen again. He doesn't want to lose his crew again. So when he doesn't see anyone, and then he sees the person he has been looking for this whole time to try to get revenge for Youthfon, he's like initially he has rage and he's scared. He's like, oh, is it time? Am I ready? Am I? He's like he's waving or wavering. You could put one F-bomb in role-playing scene. If you could put one F-bomb in role-play scene of
That's
this campaign,
hard.
which one?
That's
Before we
really
answer that,
hard.
can we keep talking about the missing? We'll come back.
Okay,
to
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
thing
I'll
on
come
it.
back to that
Because
question.
Because I
was
want to
a
know
big
Jared's
scene.
thoughts about
Oh my
it.
god.
Because
That was my
we
favorite
had just
scene.
had a
Yeah.
huge,
I was about to
ginormous
say.
fight,
Yeah.
and it was like
No,
Azure
we'll
and
get
Cookie
back
had
to
just
you.
had
It's all
a
good.
fight.
The most tumultuous moment emotionally for Cookie was right before that.
Yeah.
So Cookie was feeling vulnerable because, Azure knew something that Cookie was incredibly ashamed of and held a lot of regret and remorse for. And going into a situation in which, one, having Cookie lead everyone after like
Yeah.
a revelation like that was like, I shouldn't be trusted to lead these people, but they're still somehow for some reason putting their trust into me, and then lost everyone, and then to be confronted with literally his inner demon at that point. It was a rough go. But I think again, it's the roller coaster got to a crest, and then as opposed to going down, it went up even more, and then we crashed down. It was awesome.
I think my So for him being there was something I wasn't expecting. I thought he was going to be like another like a memory, and I was like, oh yeah, it's just another memory. Just wave him away,
Nope.
Cookie. No, yeah, he's real. And I'm not gonna lie, I actually thought the combat was actually going to be us fighting your inner demon. I was like, okay, I'm down with it. I'll fight a demon.
Nope, but there is
nope.
potential for him to come back in the future. I bet.
Gorgas
Not
Ramson
enough to get
lived.
rid of Gorgas Ramson. I'll tell you
I
that.
have full confidence that Joan will cook something up with
Hey, get it?
Gorgas Ramson.
There's no way Gorgas Ramson doesn't return, right? Like you
Right.
might have booted him out of the Leviathan, but you don't have Victor to protect you.
So wait, okay, genuine
Yes,
question.
that
How
line.
did
I'm
how
going
did
to start
he
killing you now.
how did he get out?
He was expelled.
Or like how
from
did he
me
get
as a
kicked out?
person,
So
pretty
like
much.
Victor,
He's a
Victor did it.
Victor booted him out.
like how? Like you just like kicked him out of his body
Victor
or
is
something?
the
Like that?
god of freedom.
Basically,
So
he is a god. He does have godly powers.
Oh, okay,
There are
gotcha.
limits to his power, especially since but you were like in the central place of his power. There was no option for him to have power here. And even in his lifetime, Victor was like a great warrior, the greatest among his people.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, no way that Gorgas was gonna get. But
Right, for sure.
Azure was
Hell
also
seemed
like
so
so
good.
ready to play chicken. Azure was like so ready. Oh, I had so many different ways. Oh, like if I was like gonna try to get to your patron and like strike a deal, try to kill him, threaten him. It was a lot. I had a
So-
lot of plans.
I actually have a question for you, Ray. So, like, when you had that moment of like you seeing all your crewmates have these like memories, what were your like thoughts?
Honestly, like it was like relief, honestly, because like it was like, oh, it's fake. Like none of this is real. I think walking into like waiting to go last was like so stressful. I was seeing everyone else go, and I'm just sitting there like, what's it gonna be for me? Like, Azure's so
you had to wait like
self-aware.
40 minutes before
Like,
you were
I
seen.
did. I had to wait
Like-
so long.
like the
Just sitting there
obvious
and be like,
the obvious thing would have been to have your dad appear, and I did consider that. But I also considered like of all the people who are on this crew, Azure was the most free. Azure didn't purposefully cut themselves free of their attachments in order to go out to sea to be a pirate. And the story was all about freedom. And I was like, this is the time to introduce them to their god.
and it was so exciting. It was great. And like then like having that and like knowing that everything that was happening, like, you know, down the line of like seeing everybody, to know for it was fake, except for Jared's, who I did think was fake. Until
I
he
was
wasn't.
fooled.
Like it was just like, oh, this is a healing moment for everybody. Like we're all going to walk out of here so much stronger than we walked in. But it was exciting. It was exciting to choose who to go to next. Cookie was always gonna be last because I still had a grudge against Cookie.
I knew it. I already knew.
I was like
Yeah,
you
that's
could stay
fair
for a
enough.
little bit longer.
I liked how you went to intern first because I think like honestly
It was
he
yeah.
his was just being alone
Yeah.
and like to have that a person that he
Yeah, God,
trusts
Joan, that was devastating.
yeah
It was so
show
sad.
up and it was super good. Like I think going for intern first was the correct choice.
It was like either all of us going to get him together,
Mhm.
which would have been great as well, but I was still mad at Cookie, so
My
it was
head
really
canon
hard
has-
to convince myself to do that one first. I was like, well, we have to get intern first.
I love that whole sequence of events. My headcanon is it's like a very anime moment where like
Oh, it was so
where like
anime.
they go in to save intern and then we each bring more people to the next person, so
Mhm.
on and so forth till we get to Cookie and confront his inner demon, like literally.
No, for real.
Mhm.
Physically.
Joan, you created such a vivid scene. Like I can
Yeah.
picture them walking into the mist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the craziest thing
Yeah.
to think about it, right? Like Mist in of itself and the way that it was portrayed was an abyss. There's absence of everything but what was described, and for it to be so, as Clayton astutely put it, so illustrative and so beautiful was simply based off of what you were able to provide in terms of your words, because there's nothing else happening in the mist.
Yeah. It
Joan,
was
stop!
real.
Don't cry, Joan. Don't
It was
cry.
great. Like honestly, like it's probably one of those like moments that's just gonna stick with me for the rest of ever because like
Really cool.
Yeah,
it was such a great moment for
it was
all of our
such a
characters.
good moment. Yeah, it's a good storytelling moment.
Yeah, it gave us all a platform for us to like feel like we developed as a character, not just by rolling extra stats, but like by completing a part of our arc. And I mean, you two in
And
tandem,
it felt like they really earned it
Yeah.
when they kicked those anti
anti
creatures' asses.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
Dude, I was so excited. Now I'm gonna ask the question. So the sword, were you planning on giving me it then?
Technically, it could have been drawn at any point during the story as long as you had intern do it.
That is also true.
But I also knew you would never have intern draw your sword for you.
Because, well, I would have never thought of it. I would have never thought of it.
Of course not. I did think at one point about the idea of having you walk into a room and intern has your sword drawn, is just cleaning it. It's like, oh, hey, Captain.
That'd be awesome.
Here you go.
It would have been so good.
See, the thing is like I don't think Kay would like go far from it just because of like the meaning behind the sword and his hat. It was his brother's, so like him having those two close to him at pretty much all times, he feels comfortable with it. Like it feels like his brother's still there. I mean, he's technically still there because he's a ghost haunting him.
So
Truly, something I was not expecting was the Ghost Brother.
The Ghost Brother, yeah, that was
So when I was actually making KO, I was like, okay, I do want to go with the barbarian monk build, but like I don't know what to go with because I think the barbarian was like zealot or something like that. Like, but Joan was
we
like,
talked a whole bunch about like
Yeah.
what kind of barbarian like really fits this story. I'm like, if we're talking about the character, and like on a narrative level, what is the most satisfying class? How about the barbarian class that is literally protected by your ancestors? Like
Yeah.
literally the ghost of your dead brother floating around protecting you and those you care about.
Yeah, and then I was like, yes, that is definitely. And then I could just have like this ghost youth font being like, yeah, what's up, man? And so like when you look at my character sheet, you actually see youth fawn, and that's because he's just super important to my character because he came up pretty big in a couple fights just because of like the second combat where I almost saved Vince from a critical hit, but not quite. But there was a couple times where I actually came in because I think he came in handy in the last fight because I think you didn't attack me, but I attacked what's his face, Artax, and you didn't attack me, and so everyone he was trying to attack was just like, yeah, you can't do anything.
So it looks like we had a note in the chat here that we didn't quite get to. Who's the one who asked this question? We don't actually get to see who posted this. I think this is
About the F-bomb
Trevor.
one, or
Well,
Oh,
we
you
have
guys
to-
are talking about our chat?
Yeah.
Sorry,
Our-
I thought
yeah,
you meant
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't want to interrupt. We were talking about the mist, i.e. This
Oh,
is
yeah.
something that's completely different. But
Oh.
it's a question I had for Rae about Azure and how they would react that Vince decided to go kill their god, essentially, even though they were going to die anyways, eventually,
Yeah.
albeit a much more painful and lonely death. Is it like, what kind of emotions does that bring up? Does Azure still have their powers? Does that indicate that there is some other source, perhaps?
I
These are some
will say
questions I had.
that Azure and Cookie, who are
Mhm.
clerics of the Leviathan, do still have their powers. But at this point, it's not coming from a specific god. It's more of this is what it means to be free, right? You are no longer chained to your god, and what could be more free than that?
Very
Okay.
true, actually.
Because
So
that
the corpse
was
of the Leviathan
Azure's...
gives them the power.
Because
So
that
you're
was
saying I could have cleric powers too if I just be free?
I don't know.
You got
Most
your
religions
sword,
today are
yeah.
based
You got
on
a
dead
sword.
people, right?
That's
That's
I
fair.
mean, listen, in the last or the second last comment in the brain, I asked Joan, "Hey, do the ghost of the crew come and join Youthbond?" And we had a really wholesome moment where Ghost KO and Ghost Youthbond finally got to high five. It was so awesome. I was so excited about that. So now I just have a ghost crew with the rest of my crew.
Well, I haven't
Yeah.
decided
I thought that was
as to whether or not they're
temporary.
sticking
I thought it was
around.
temporary.
They didn't.
Please
they
let
didn't
that
show
be
up
Listen, we
during the
never
fight.
we
Yeah.
never said that. We
So-
never said that.
So
on
I think we'll make that
stream.
be temporary, so I don't have to voice the entire crew in the background while the crew is talking.
yeah.
It was a
we're
fun
all just
gag,
having
but-
breakfast. I just see a ghost crew like to the side. I'm like,
No.
so how you guys doing today? And like they're just all having a conversation.
I mean, there's
Azure's
one more
crazy
ghost that you
enough.
might
He
see
does not
around,
need to see
but
that.
What'd you say, Joan?
There's one more ghost that you might see around, but we'll talk about that if we ever get into a second season.
Victor, please, Victor.
But to answer Trevor's question for Vince, I guess
Now you're doing it too.
it's
Yeah.
so hard.
No, it's fine.
In season 1, I didn't actually know your real name, so I thought your name was Trevor. I didn't know your name was Trevor. I thought it was Tristan.
All right, that's fine. No worries.
I was very new to the group in season 1. I barely knew anybody. I knew Joan. That was and Jared.
I would say I was pretty new too. I was like, I only knew Joan and
Most of
I
you
said
only
this
knew
Naruto.
me.
season
Yeah.
1.
yeah, season 1 was a honestly like I'm glad we did the pilot. I think that was like helped a lot of us like learn how we play and everything like that.
It gave us a bonding moment. It gave us a chance to play together without it being like on the stream.
Yeah.
And I think like me, Trevor, and Berto, we actually did you had a Christmas one shot.
I remember that.
Clayton.
Yeah.
That was a
Or it was
fun
Clayton?
one.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was not there for that one.
Clayton
We-
played
we
the
might-
yeah, so
face
me-
from
I just-
Clayton and
Die
Berto.
Hard.
I just want to say, like, we might run that again on stream someday as a Christmas special.
That
because I
was-
think that would be really, really fun. The base concept
It was
of it
really
was
fun.
everybody
Like
is
8
hired.
months from now, though.
The concept
can't
is
remember.
that the Krampus has stolen Santa's list and taken refuge in a little house somewhere in the Midwestern United States, which turns out to be the home of Macaulay Culkin, who is a young child with a penchant for mischief. And so it was basically sort of the plot of Home Alone, except everybody is playing as Santa's secret agents who are in the process of trying to get the list back. And it was a really fun one shot.
I don't even remember who I played. I think
I was Bruce Willis's character from Die Hard. I
That's
don't remember
right.
his name.
I was Buddy the Elf from Elf. Weaponized.
I don't remember
That's
what I
funny.
played now. I said I wanted to play Grinch, but I think I switched to something else.
I mean,
can't
Die Hard is a
remember.
Christmas movie, so that counted. But I know The Grinch
was it,
was
Jack
definitely
Torrance?
someone who was on the list. But anyway, we're getting
think
way off
We're
topic.
getting way off topic.
With
I
Buddy
really like to
Dell.
answer Trevor's question.
Anyways, go ahead.
Please, I really want to
Azure,
hear it.
I think Azure, after seeing Victor in so much pain, Azure does not hold Vince like accountable, or like doesn't hold a grudge against it. Azure in the moment was much more worried about Vince's safety and well-being, and like Vince sacrificing himself to an inevitable death to have mercy, to be like just a good person in that moment. So I like thankful comes to mind. Like I think Azure would be thankful to Vince for putting his god out of their eon long misery of being biomechanically infused into a ginormous sea beast.
Not fun.
I'm glad
Was
to
Yeah.
hear
it
that our
that
characters' relationships won't be tumultuous in the future.
Yeah.
was it that revelation that Victor was this person forced into this scenario and in like everlasting torment that made that shift? Because your intent to slay the Leviathan, I think at first obviously propulsed by vengeance, and we were all kind of comfortable with that due to our situation. But
Mm-hmm.
the moment that I learned the truth, I'm like, I will not let you hurt this creature if I can prevent it.
Yeah, I had that switch too.
Yeah.
It became more complex as things went on, and we found out
Yeah.
that they're in constant pain and that they intend to end their own life anyways because they regret killing so many people on accident. Initially, Vince thought it was a primal creature that just kills people for the heck of it.
Mhm.
Apparently has like taken out so many crews. We get down there, we see a graveyard of all these people that have fallen to the Leviathan, and we thought it was an intentional act on behest of this evil creature. Turns out it's somewhat the opposite, and that the only reason that it's doing this is because it needs to go up for air every once in a while, and just so happens that there's people where it goes up for air. Although maybe there's some kind of Bermuda Triangle situation happening where it's unfortunate that the ships are always in the right exact spot. But
I won't
I think
spoil
also
anything.
paired with like the backstory of like having to like go attack these islands and make it look like a natural disaster to get resources from this like ancient kingdom where like they were they did murder because because he was told to, because he was a warrior, to like the unintentional murder of just trying to exist and protect a homeland that don't really know where it is anymore.
I know where it is.
Well,
yeah, I have a lot of
Joan, you're the
questions
DM.
about.
So,
I have a lot of
questions
Source
about
we're not
that.
allowed to
about,
go
like,
to, isn't it? Huh?
Bhutan,
I-
Seven, the Kingdom.
Yeah, 7.
What
I
the
have a
Leviathan was
question.
guarding.
I have a question, about Victor. So why did he get chosen to be the pilot? And
He was the greatest warrior of the kingdom.
was that the only reason?
It was
Why?
Well, that and it
It
was
was in the
his
flesh.
intense loyalty to the king, or so he thought.
Huh.
which may not be the case. I mean, like there may be some
At
kind
this
of
point, like he had to make a hard choice, and like, do I kill all of these people because it is what I am told to do because I should be loyal to my friend, or do I make the hard decision and turn against him because his actions are hurting so many people? Because sometimes in life we get hard and complicated decisions where you're going to hurt somebody no matter what you do.
It also just sucked, like finding out that Intern was like his descendant, like so far down, and to like then have to the realization that Victor had a family that he also left to do this mission, and like that really hurt Azure, I think, in ways that he didn't think about being hurt before, about learning about his god.
So is Kale like an adopted son now?
Kinda, yeah. I mean, like tied through the bonds of brotherhood with not one but two of his descendants. Like, I think that qualifies you to wield the sword.
If we do a second season, I'm going to like I have a plan for intern, by the way, for the second season. It's gonna be so good. Like I'm already planning for a second season, and we're probably not gonna play it anytime soon.
Like if I'll be straightforward with you and the audience here. If we go back to a setting, I want to make sure that we have at least, say, 3 seasons at minimum between them before we go back to it, because I don't want to just constantly go back to other settings. I want to have options too, because like I love all of the settings that we've played in, both as a player and a dungeon master. It does mean that if we have a season 5, that the possibility of going back to Gracia, to the world of Pantheon City, is on the table. But let's worry about season 4 first before we start talking about anything like that.
Season 4? You mean we're getting a season 4?
Of course we're getting a season 4. We had so much fun with campaign 3. You think we're not going to have a campaign 4?
Oh yeah, we have to share our F-bomb moment.
Oh, circle back. What is the best scene for the F-bomb? Everybody make your decisions.
I have two options. So, first one is when Vince gets backstabbed and KO sees it. He's like, "Oh F, this is bad." My second one is a player OF moment is when KO grabbed me, or Ghost KO grabbed actual KO and held him in that lightning strike. I was like, oh man, how much is this gonna do? I think I should be fine, right? And it did like a third or almost half my health. I was like, oh, that's a lot of damage.
I think it was like 3d8 lightning damage, I think, is what we decided on, Clayton. Because we wanted it to be like terrifying to some degree, but not like instantly vaporize the player.
Yeah, definitely.
It might have been a joke.
It was around that.
Debating this.
I think for our F-bomb moment, like, I think, Joan, you should get it for when that water walk spell, when we read that
yeah. I think that's really when Joan, that or when Azure did the like tidal wave. Those are the two moments.
Oh yeah, those for Joan, I can definitely see those two.
Those definitely.
I think
another...
the better one. I think the better one is the acid. Like, oh, F.
It's so ridiculous.
This spell exists, and she spent like no joke, like 5 minutes, like looking at the spell. It's like it literally says acid.
It just completely demolished the entire concept of the fight. I was like, I loved it because the fight turned out to be great in the end. A lot of tense moments, and it gave me I was always going to drag them into the acid. That was always the goal anyway. But now they're starting to fight. For all
you D&D heads out there, like fucking water walking is crazy good.
There it is.
You can walk on lava. Why can you walk on lava with water walking? That doesn't make sense.
Why don't you get hurt by it? This is the thing that should hurt you. It is allowing you to walk on the water. It does not protect you from the water. You should still be burning. Like, you should still be on fire.
Water cold, lava hot.
Lava hot.
Water liquid, lava not really liquid.
Well, I mean, it's like kind of liquid.
It's a molten liquid.
Water walk, baby. I took this. This was one of the first spells I took. Because it's a 3rd level spell. I think I started with 3rd levels. I think I had like 1 3rd level spell. This was the one I took. Because Azure's strength score is -1. And if he got into the rigging, I wanted to make sure if he got knocked into the ocean, he could at least walk on the water and not drown and be pulled under the current. That's why I took water walk.
That's actually a pretty good reason, actually.
There was a lore reason Azure had this spell, and it's so funny.
The perfect spell to have on a boat. It's the ideal spell.
That's why I'm not mad about it. I'm just frustrated I didn't consider it, and it completely destroyed my campaign design for that fight.
It's so funny, and it's up to 10 willing creatures. Like, that is insane.
Yeah.
There's so many good spells in D&D, but like if you're doing an ocean themed campaign, a pirate themed campaign, like water walking is like one of the main spells you got to pick up. Water breathing, I'm surprised didn't also come up.
I thought about it.
It's the
By
same way
far,
like how Goodberry completely trivializes survival campaigns.
by far my favorite spell is going to always be Silvery Barbs.
And that's why it's banned, man.
Yeah.
That spell is so
Well,
good.
Speaking of that, I did have a question for the whole everybody. That included the Silvery Barbs ban. What's your favorite home rule that in a campaign that you've played?
Mm.
That a
Home rule?
barbarian has to punch itself in the face to keep its rage going if it can't attack or isn't attacked.
That counts.
pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would allow it.
That was
but,
easy.
I mean, if we're talking like, I mean, I've done so much homebrew over the years, but if we're talking just like rules to add on to D&D, I
Mhm.
love what we do with the wild magic, where we just have it ramp up over
man.
time until it's
Yeah.
inevitable.
I was about
Because
to mention that was
Because
mine.
otherwise, like, it
Never happens.
never happens. You have to wait and wait and wait, and eventually not one happens, you know. But like you significantly increase the odds if you allow it to scale like that.
Yeah. Oh, it just kind of I idealizes the whole theme of that subclass is wild in nature and chaos. Like, why not ramp it up? That'd be my favorite one that we've had.
I really loved Joan's homebrew. I guess it's not even like, well, it's not something that we played on the campaign, but Joan's homebrew for the Avatar world for D&D 5e integration was incredible. Those rules are super sick. You can make some super sick builds with those.
There was not an Avatar RPG series when I initially came up with a concept of like writing Republic City in the future in the time of the next Avatar before that Avatar has been found. And so I wrote this whole campaign. Trevor and Clayton both played in it. It was fantastic. That's actually how I met them. And I homebrewed all 4 benders in 5th edition rules, and even gave them all interesting subclasses, which I treated as like schools of bending, and it was a really fun time. That
Next
campaign did
season.
eventually.
I
No,
got to
not next
play
season.
I was a rogue who was like a sniper rogue who was an airbender, spirituality airbender. So I had like a little like companion guy. It was so sick.
Whoa.
That's so cool.
I
haven't played a lot of anything with like a lot of homebrew that I can like think of.
Yeah.
I was an artificer that was eventually building like a giant Gundam-esque creature. I guess automaton.
Did you ever finish it?
We did not finish that campaign.
No.
Oh man!
And I think I was gonna be like the final boss. I don't know, part of it
cool.
at least.
A lot of that was just due to DM burnout. And here's a lesson for everybody watching the stream about burnout. It's okay to say, hey, this has gone way beyond the scope of what I'm really okay with. Like I'm burnt out. I don't want to do it anymore. I mean, that campaign, I had to homebrew everything from the ground up, right? I had to homebrew everything because the vendors don't exist within 5th edition. You'd have to pull across from like multiple different classes in order to make it work. And so having to build stuff like that from the ground up, and then a lot of the encounters, of course, also have to be built from the ground up because they're also vendors. That takes its toll after a while.
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of the reason why Minis and Mayhem here, why we have these short seasons of like 10 to 12 episodes. Because it keeps it from burning out, because it gives us opportunities to try a lot of different settings and a lot of different rules and explore a lot of different characters, as opposed to where like Critical Role will do like 100 episodes, but it's on those characters. You get really deep into those characters. Like that's a cool way to run your games too, but it doesn't work for me as a dungeon master. I tend to burn out when campaigns go on that long.
I love Matt Mercer, but I have to work and I cannot devote that much time to dungeon mastering.
It's crazy what they
Yeah.
do.
That's what we got paid to do. That changes everything.
Yeah,
I mean,
that
I would like
does.
to get paid to be a DM, but
Yeah.
that doesn't seem to be happening anytime soon.
My
We gotta get
my
that
favorite-
BlackBerry sponsorship first, and then we're going.
Yeah, right.
So
And that'll be my favorite homebrew.
looking down into the chat, one thing mentioned by Patchwork Casey, if you roll HP and you don't like your roll, you can ask the GM to re-roll you, but you have to take it.
Ooh, that's
Mm.
interesting.
I've always done average.
I prefer the average myself, but I do allow everybody to re-roll. I really like the you get to re-roll a 1.
Yeah.
So that because when you're rolling normally, an average roll is actually better on average. Like when you take the average that's listed in the book,
Hmm.
you're going to be better off than most of your rolls because
I
it's like
will
slightly above
say-
half.
We did have one, like when I first started playing, our DM had us roll HP, and if you got under the average, you just took the average.
Okay.
So you would like if you were rolling and you would D8, you would take a 5 if you rolled like under it.
It's not bad. Yeah, I don't really have a favorite homebrew like rule, but by far my favorite homebrew so far is actually Clan's gosh, what was it called?
Prismatic Horizons.
Yeah, Prismatic Horizons. The special features.
The
He made, like-
neo-humans.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
the
the
neo-humans.
neo-humans, those were cool.
I think there was like 13 or 11 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like we only had 4 players, so there's still like a lot of different like new humans we could like actually see. But that was probably by far one of my favorite homebrews that we got to do.
That was really fun to build. I had a lot of fun with them.
I want to go back to that world someday. Like,
I feel like 5e has a lot of great things about it. I mean, I'd love to talk systems for a second if we could.
sure.
5e has a
yeah.
lot of great things about it, but it does, it's built to be very beginner friendly, very accessible. So it doesn't have, as many expansive options as some other popular systems out there. But yeah, I feel like one area that is especially lacking is races. There are not that many options out there for D&D 5e.
Yeah, I think the new humans were actually really good because like 4 of the 4 characters we had I think was really good. So like I went with the poisonous route. So like I loved how we did it because I think we did a pilot episode before that and we didn't record or anything, or we did a test recording.
We had
Yeah.
Jarid for that one, and
Yeah.
unfortunately had to drop.
Mm-hmm.
But I actually did like in that combat, I literally just took off my jacket and I literally just hugged the bear and I was just poisoning the bear as like, and I was just grappling it and I'm just like, yep, I'm just hugging this bear, giving it poison.
The bear hug.
The bear, like, I literally a bear hug.
It was a grisly
So-
thing to watch for sure.
Let's put the jokes on pause for now.
Okay.
Oh man, look at the time.
More than you can bear, huh?
Oh my gods.
For a long time, I thought you were gonna keep going. For a long time.
Okay, let's go back to season 3. Let's talk about season 3.
Back to season 3. Back to season 3. Cool. What are other cool things that we haven't talked about? And any other questions from the players?
Let's grab
in
a favorite
chat?
moment from everybody. How about
Ooh,
that?
favorite moment. Oh,
It's the mist, man. But if we're talking like a specific moment within the mist, it was Dell coming to terms with what it means to carry on the weight of your past.
Yeah, and that you can be forgiven.
Between you and Vic, that was my favorite moment of the entire campaign. You had some great emotion in that scene. I was so proud of you.
Yeah, and that was something that I really wanted. I mean, to piggyback on the first question, I was asked like, what was my intent for Cookie? It was to make like sure that I could be that kind of like and play that kind of character. Because Lar began pretty happy-go-lucky, not really much cares in the world besides his immediate surroundings. But then Cookie, I really tried to embrace a lot more depth and I think that really came through with the confrontation, the unease it put on Cookie and his mental, the strenuous relationship that he had with a god or a deity or his patron, to be on the best lookout for his best interest, and then for that to be kind of joking and tauntingly waved in front of his face is not true. Really put him at a very tumultuous kind of mental state. And yeah, I think if I had to pick a favorite moment, it was being pushed to that place, right? Cookie wouldn't have gotten there originally, but through the nature of the environment for the interaction, or right before as we're going into the mist, and then just the kind of like face to face. Most of this campaign didn't see any PvP kind of thing, but that felt like the most confrontational from another player that the campaign got, and I really enjoyed being able to be a part of that. And I really enjoyed that moment a lot.
My favorite was definitely fighting with Cookie.
Yeah,
like Azure, like using his powers to like really get what like he wants. And like I talked to Joan about it. I was like, I will throw Cookie under the bus to get what I want at the end of the day. Like I was willing to do that.
It's true.
But like I really loved the fight with Cookie in the kitchen. That was my favorite part.
It was a great setting for that too, right? A place that normally Cookie feels incredibly comfortable and in his own element, and then to be put so much on the back foot again. It was just very well, expertly done, and definitely helped me like grow as a player above table as well. I feel.
Me too. I was like, it was really intense in like every like great way.
Mm-hmm. And the whole time, like we're like screaming at each other because I'm sure you guys heard it. Me and Rae were typing, "Are you okay? Is everything okay? Like, are you good? Are you good here?"
Do you need to get more frustration out?
Man, I think for me it was probably when we get the reveal about Victor and Azure's reaction to that. And Azure like just sort of understanding their place and their god's place in the world, and just like the oh no nature of it all, but also the like sort of how it all fits into place. It's like that realization that you don't want to have but is still true.
Yeah, it was hard. There was like so many thoughts running through my mind in that moment. It's like, what do you like cry? Does Azure like fall to his knees in devotion, or is it that like quiet shock of I understand everything is the way it is and there's nothing we can do about it?
Yeah,
classic.
Totally.
It is what it is moment.
But like so hard that it was like even gods fall kind of a moment.
No, totally. That scene made me cry for sure.
Oh,
Trevor, you got a favorite moment? He's thinking.
Yeah, so I've been thinking about it. It's hard for me, but if I have to be honest, I mean, it might be too obvious, but it's the way I ended things. The show's to end things with Vince's character, and that he was given another lease on life, and he came back to the crew and he asked them, "Looks like you guys need a navigator if you have me." And everyone accepted him and like embraced him, and it felt really wholesome, like a good conclusion to this arc for him. It made me really happy. I was very content with it. I wish everyone else had more time for their characters to resolve too, but we were late in the night.
Honestly, I think like for your character, I think that is like a good place for your like for Vince to like kind of like end his story, but like the rest of the crew still has a lot of story left to tell and everything like that.
Right. Well, of course, there's a lot of avenues for it to continue here.
Yeah,
like
the whole family hasn't seen it.
There's an island that's just beyond here that is an ancient island with like technologies beyond our comprehension. There is a garden that Seven kept talking about that he guards. That we
gotta go
stay out of his forest.
Yes,
we gotta go get the
my family. There's Chef Gordon Ramson. Gorgon
Gorgus
Ramson is
Ramson.
that?
Gorgus
Sorry.
Ramson.
Gorgus Ramson.
We have a
is
sword
out
we
there.
have to
He's
return.
probably gonna want vengeance, so
Oh,
he's gonna be a
you think I'm
villain.
returning that? You're,
It's
you're
Stolen
funny.
property.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's
maybe
a
by
lot
force
of,
you may be forced to bring it back. I don't know.
there's a lot of avenues to explore.
Well, the thing is Adrian, which is a really cool character, and I'm surprised we haven't talked about.
Yeah, we have not
I-
talked about her at all.
I have
and
a
it's
lot to
crazy.
say about Adrian, but by all means, please continue.
Yeah, I mean, Adrian was a really big help in the campaign, like just as an NPC and everything like that. But honestly, I think Adrian is actually just going to become like kind of like how Shanks is to Luffy, is like I think she will be like, she'll be like kind of like I don't even know what, like guardian of KO, but like we will very rarely see Adrian after this point unless it's like a big moment, right? So, but I if we do a second season of this, I'm expecting Adrian, the Pirate Queen, to show up. Who knows? Maybe even the Navy will show up.
So Adrian is definitely not the Pirate Queen. You
Oh no! For
you
sure.
definitely need to meet Delia Thorne
Delia
first.
Thorne.
Delia Thorne. I'm super excited about her. So interesting fact about Adrian. When I initially came up with the concept for Lost in Leviathan, the character who she was more closely based on Misfortune from League of Legends.
Oh, okay.
And so she was going to be sort of, this gun-toting, female, I'm in charge kind of deal. And the whole story was going to be about, yeah, you have the tools to escape, but why would I want you to escape? I'm in charge down here. I am in control down here. So let me keep you all down here where I have the power. Because out there I'm a nobody, but in here I'm a god. And then that character kind of started slowly falling to the wayside as I started going over the different ideas as to like, how do I present this character as a leader? Why is she the one in power? Why do people pay attention to her? And as a result, started slowly creating the story about this Triton woman who used to be a Navy admiral and turned on the Navy when they tried to wipe out her home. If anyone is, if those of you who have seen her wanted poster, that's why she looks like she's wearing old tattered Navy, an old tattered Navy outfit, because that's what she was. She's a former admiral. And then there's all kinds of like stories written about her and the terrifying power she was on the sea. She was friends with Astromartax. They were two of the four warlords of the sea. And we'll see the other two in the future if we ever go through things, because they can't all be friends. But she was going to be the villain of the first campaign initially. And then as things developed, I was like, no, Artax. Artax is a villain if there even is a big bad this season, and the story is not about beating the bad guy, it's about escaping.
Yeah.
So
that's really
out of
cool.
Curiosity, would KO now be in like the new
No.
No.
No, I'm
I thought
sorry. You gotta earn that position.
That's what I thought so, but since we
don't
killed
get to
one of
just
them.
slide into that position. Like, nobody knows that you killed him. You can't prove
That's
that
true.
you killed him. So
Yeah,
if you
kinda
want
lost the
that
body.
fourth seat, you've got to earn it, and most likely some more powerful pirate is going to take that position. But that'll have to be for a future campaign. If we ever come back to this edit, believe me, I am already doing so much writing.
Going back to my favorite moment, to be honest, I don't really have like a favorite. Without being like too biased. Like, I mean, pulling the sword was, I mean, I was jumping at joy. And I actually have a funny story about that. So during the campaign, my roommate and a friend came like we're just coming home, and I said, I pull out my mighty sword, and I said that really loud, and they heard me, and now it's just a joke every time she's like, or like whenever she sees me, she's like, yeah, so did you pull out your almighty sword? And I'm like, dude, it was a campaign, it was a D&D, and it was really funny whole
That's
scene.
funny.
But honestly,
I'm going to pull up that list of all the things that I designed or came up with in the middle of the campaign.
Yes.
but honestly, I think my one scene that I really think was good was KO inviting Victor to join the crew. I think that's probably one of my favorite moments in the campaign. Just like the emotion, and like I think it also comes down to like, KO's like this. I feel like the flag sitting there like nicely laid out is like a sign, and so I'm like, you know what? Let's see if he'll join the crew. And that was kind of like going in my head as like the whole scene was happening. I was like, yeah, this is someone I would want on my crew.
Totally. That was such an amazing moment. Joan, I'm excited. Let's chat about that stuff that you brought up. I just want to give us a reminder on time really quickly.
Oh, yeah.
But let's chat about that stuff that we got at mid-season.
So obviously, we had a lot of talk about the Leviathan, of course. That was a big thing. And what is its creature type? We ended on construct, but some other things we threw around: humanoid, celestial, monstrosity. But he already had monstrosity, so we wanted to give him something else. Let's see.
Foe.
There was a fun little moment where Clayton accidentally typed in the wrong chat about Artax being alive. And Rae saw it.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, I saw it. I was like,
Ray saw
Yeah,
it.
Joan actually DM'd me and like spoiled Artax to me.
Did I spoil Artax to you?
Yeah, you did.
I don't remember spoiling Artax to you, but I did. I did delete the message when it happened. So Rae actually knew that Artax was alive when we were getting into that episode.
Yeah.
What else do we got here? No, we had never decided what Artax's class and stuff was until we got to that point. He's an Oathbreaker, Paladin, Gloomstalker, Ranger, for the record. Let's see. The paralytic poison and stuff. There's all my stats for him. Sunclaw.
Oops.
How much HP do you have?
Let's see. I don't have his stats pulled up in front of me right now, but
okay. You mentioned you had his stats. I'm sorry. I thought you.
Oh, I don't have them in front of me right now, but.
So, I mean, half of our favorite moments relate to Victor, right? And Victor wasn't even planned to be a character until this point in the series.
I mean, he didn't plan to be a character, but I didn't expect him to be
at this level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where did I put it all? I had so much.
He took on a new role, definitely at that point in the season.
Here it is. We had the antibodies, and it looks like it had been. This had been pre-season, it looks like, but it had been like right towards the end. I think. Yes, this has been pre-season. Well, I think yes, this was pre-season. Cookie's patron is eating his memories. Slams desk. I finally found my inn. Gorgas Ramson, the Glutton Weaver, doesn't care about Cookie's food. He's eating his memories. And then I'm like, oh my god, they stole the sign cloth from the Pirate Queen. I'm a freaking genius. I was very excited about coming up with that.
Yeah, I was looking through all the DMs. It's pretty much just me asking Joan, hey, when do I get to pull the sword? Hey, Joan, when do I get to pull the sword?
Get to pull it when it's time for you to pull it, when your character is ready.
Yeah, I sent a lot of messages.
Joan, what would have happened if we went to that treasure room?
You did go to the treasure room.
No, like tried to enter and pilfer it.
Would have stolen the treasure, and Adrian would have been pissed at you.
Oh, great.
No consequences.
What are you gonna do with all that money, huh?
Yeah.
Where are you gonna spend all that money in jewelry and cash?
It's going to be really easy to sail out of there with like 500 pounds more of gold on your ship.
Yeah, and I'm sure none of the
gold
people
was
in
kind of
Gut Wrench are going to
inconsequential.
notice you carrying them around.
Yeah. Yeah,
gold
Joan,
was kind of inconsequential that season. Like
You're-
for a little bit, I was hoping there was like a shopkeeper or something we could buy things from, but nothing really presented itself. So I was like,
No.
oh, I have all this money that I do nothing with. But it is what it is. We're in a Leviathan.
Yeah, it's like what is the value gonna offer to the guy, right? It's like he doesn't know if he's getting out, unless you're like offering him like good berries or something like that.
No, we're offering him information. I don't know.
That was important
Yeah.
to Azure.
Yeah.
He healed people for information.
Joan, I was talking. We were talking about like weapons and stuff, and I was asking about like the four lord, or was Mossbeard one of the four lords of the sea? And then
He's not. He wasn't.
He was not. And then I see all seats, and I was asking, like, are all the seats filled? Nope, but there are 2 open seats from the What the World Thinks. After all, Adrian and Artex vanish. And I said, Artex, question mark. All right, I don't know that his name came up yet.
Oops.
Yeah, I was like, oh.
I mean, he vanished. I didn't confirm he was alive. I just confirmed that he had vanished.
Yeah, I was like, huh. Who's this guy?
Don't worry about it.
Turns out he's the big bad.
I'm trying to remember what Clayton had said. It was like, oh, I thought of a new blood thing for Artax's fight. And I was like, I don't think this is supposed to be here.
Yep, I put it in the completely wrong chat.
And then after that, everyone was
Information
like,
that is so important to keep secret. I put it in the wrong chat.
Don't mind me. It's just like the second biggest spoiler of the entire campaign.
And everyone's like, what did he say, right? And I was like, I honestly don't remember.
Bum, bum, bum.
Cool. We're sort of getting to the end of our time here.
Did we have any questions from chat that we missed or anything else?
I don't know. I like that. I like the F-bomb question.
It's your last moment to type in
Last
anything
call.
you want to know.
Change your server name to Tom Holland.
I'm good.
Oh, because of the leaks. He can't keep his mouth closed.
It's like, are we doing Spider-Man next, or?
All right.
Well, I know we have one more thing that we have been still stuck. That's okay. We do have one more thing that we were thinking of showing tonight.
Yep.
As I mentioned earlier, we're planning on doing a 4th campaign, but unfortunately I don't feel properly equipped to introduce it myself because I won't be the dungeon master for that one.
No.
What?
What are we gonna do?
It's me.
It's
Dio. Sorry.
Dio.
No,
Ladies and gentlemen, I will be stepping back into the role of Dungeon Master for Season 4. I'm so excited about it. We are going to be swapping systems as well, hopping over to Pathfinder 2E, seeing how that works for everybody. Obviously, we're going to have some time in between for everybody to get adjusted to it. And I'm very excited to announce our next season. Let's see it. Shadows of Synthropolis, Minis and Mayhem Season 4. That's right, baby. We're in space.
We're in space.
Oh, now you tell everybody we're in space.
Oh.
We
I
did
like
not
that
know.
animation. That was sick.
That's been your
Wow.
stinger the
Yeah.
entire season. Just so
Yeah.
everyone knows.
We've been using that one.
Oh, we have an incoming transmission from the fans.
But yeah, we're so excited. I'm so excited. I have a bunch of stuff built out for that. Synthropolis is a synthetic city, a floating moon around a planet deep in a galaxy far, far away. But a little bit similar to our own. We will see a lot more information coming about it soon. But yeah, for now, I don't want to leak too much info. We will be doing a sci-fi season 4, and we are so excited about it.
I mean, sci-fi and maybe a little cyberpunk.
Hey, and maybe Tom Holland is an appropriate name, given that. That's right. We're also going to be doing some superheroes next season. We are so excited for that. So, Shadows of Synthropolis, superheroes, space. We'll see you then.
Now the question is,
fun.
Question is, will I have another cat in my background? You'll just have to find out and see. Until next time.
Alrighty.
All right, Joan, did you have anything else for us?
Well, gosh, that was like the main thing that I wanted to talk about. I mean, I guess if there's anything else to talk about, it would be that we're going to be talking about expanding our content at this point. The details behind what that is, they're currently still secret, and a lot of it is up in the air. But we'll be having some chats behind the scenes. We have a meeting next week that will be going into detail about some stuff for the future. So be on the lookout for no Minis and Mayhem content. We'll see you
Stay tuned,
then.
everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Who knows?
Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
I love you all.